I should have seen it coming. The problem with living inside your own life is you miss the pattern until it's already tattooed on your skin. We were standing in the kitchen, our kitchen, the one I'd remodeled myself 2 summers ago, laying every tile while she picked paint colors from her phone, and Laura was talking. She'd been talking for maybe 10 minutes, maybe an hour. Time does weird things when someone you love is explaining why you're insufficient. "You don't listen," she said, setting her wine glass down with that particular precision that meant she'd rehearsed this. "You never have. You hear words, Daniel, but you don't actually process what I need." I was leaning against the counter, still wearing my work boots. I'd been home maybe 15 minutes. The kitchen smelled like nothing. She hadn't cooked. I hadn't cooked. We'd stopped doing that together months ago without discussing it. One day, we just both started eating separately, like roommates who happened to share a lease. "I'm listening now," I said. "Are you?" She crossed her arms. She'd changed after work, out of the blazer and into yoga pants and a fitted top. Her hair was down. She always looked good. That was part of the problem, maybe. She knew it. She'd started dressing better 6 months ago. New clothes, brighter colors. I'd noticed but hadn't said anything because what was I supposed to say? "You look too good?" "I am." "Then what did I just say?" I replayed the last 30 seconds. Something about emotional availability. Something about growth. Something about how I never asked questions anymore. Never showed interest in her day. Never made plans beyond the weekend grocery run. The words all sounded reasonable individually, but strung together they formed an accusation I didn't know how to defend against. "You said I don't listen." Before that. "You said..." I stopped. The truth was I'd been thinking about the Hendricks account, about the shipment delay that was going to cascade into next week, about whether I needed to call the warehouse before 6 or if it could wait until morning. The container from Shanghai was stuck in customs because someone had mislabeled the contents, and if I didn't fix it by Monday, we'd lose the client. "I'm sorry, I was thinking about work." She smiled, not a happy smile, a confirmed suspicion smile, the kind that said she'd been waiting for exactly that answer. Exactly my point. I pushed off the counter, tried to close the distance between us, but she turned toward the living room, putting the island between us like a moat, like I was something she needed protection from. "Laura, I just walked in the door. And I've been home for 2 hours, waiting. I didn't know we had plans." "We don't need plans to talk to each other, Daniel. That's called a marriage. That's what normal couples do. They come home and they share their day, and they connect." She was right, technically. But there was something in her voice, some frequency I couldn't identify. I'd been hearing it for weeks now, maybe months. A distance that sounded like disappointment, but felt like something colder, something final. I tried to remember the last time we'd had a real conversation. Not logistics. Who was picking up the dry cleaning? Did we need milk? Could you grab dog food on your way home? Not even arguments, really, because arguments meant you still cared enough to fight. This was different. This was 2 people sharing space and pretending that was the same as sharing a life. "Okay," I said. "Let's talk. What do you want to talk about?" "It's not about wanting, it's about needing. I need you to be present. I need you to prioritize us. I need you to show me that this matters to you, that I matter to you." "You do matter." "Do I?" Because from where I'm standing, it looks like I'm just another item on your checklist. Wife, check. House, check. Marriage, check. But none of it means anything to you. You go through the motions, but you're not actually here. I opened my mouth to argue, then closed it, because she wasn't entirely wrong. I had been going through motions. We both had. But when had that started? When had we stopped being us and started being 2 people who happened to live in the same house? "I work 50 hours a week," I said, and immediately regretted it because it sounded defensive. "I'm trying to build something, for us, for our future." "Our future," she laughed, short and sharp. "What future, Daniel? We don't talk about the future. We don't talk about anything real. When was the last time you asked me how I'm doing? Really doing? When was the last time you noticed anything about me beyond whether dinner was ready? That's not fair, isn't it? Tell me something about my life right now. Anything. What's happening at my work? What project am I working on? Who's my new boss? Do I even have a new boss?" I stood there, boots still on, jacket still on, keys still in my pocket, and realized I didn't know. I knew she worked in marketing for a pharmaceutical company. I knew she'd been there for 5 years. But the day-to-day details, the politics, the projects, the people? I'd stopped asking months ago because she'd stopped volunteering the information, and I'd assumed that meant she didn't want to talk about it. Or maybe I just hadn't cared enough to push. "You have a new VP," I tried. "You mentioned that." 3 months ago, Daniel. 3 months. His name is Trevor, and he's restructuring the entire department, and I might lose my team, and you have no idea because you never asked. The refrigerator hummed. Outside, someone's car alarm chirped twice. Normal sounds. Background noise of a normal Tuesday. But standing there in our kitchen, looking at my wife, really looking at her for the first time in weeks, I saw something I hadn't seen before. She'd already left me. Not physically, not yet. But emotionally, mentally, she was gone. She was standing 3 feet away, and she might as well have been in another state. "I'm sorry," I said. "I didn't know it was that bad." That's the problem. You didn't know because you didn't ask. You didn't notice because you weren't looking. I could have walked out the door last week, and you probably wouldn't have noticed until you ran out of clean shirts. That's not true, isn't it? She picked up her wine glass again, took a slow sip, watching me over the rim. When was the last time we had a real conversation? When was the last time you touched me without it being about logistics? When was the last time you looked at me like you actually saw me? I wanted to argue, wanted to defend myself, but the truth was sitting in my throat like a stone. I couldn't remember, not specifically. There had been touches, sure, passing in the hallway, reaching for the same cabinet, brief contacts that meant nothing, but intentional touches? The kind that said, "I see you, I choose you, you matter"? I couldn't remember the last time. "We can fix this," I said. "Whatever's wrong, we can work on it." "Can we?" She set the glass down. "Because I've been trying to work on it for months, Daniel. I've been telling you in 100 different ways that I'm unhappy, that I need more, that this isn't enough. And you just keep nodding and agreeing, and then nothing changes. Nothing ever changes. Then tell me what you want, specifically. Tell me what to do and I'll do it." She looked at me for a long time. Her eyes were brown, flecked with gold near the center. I'd noticed that on our third date 7.5 years ago, sitting across from her at an Italian restaurant I couldn't afford. She'd been laughing at something I'd said, and the light had caught her eyes just right, and I'd thought, I'm going to marry this woman. Now those same eyes looked at me like I was a stranger. Yes, it's not about doing, Daniel. It's about being. It's about showing up emotionally, not just physically. It's about caring enough to notice when something's wrong without me having to tell you. It's about... She stopped, and something in her face shifted, hardened, like she'd been holding something back and suddenly decided to release it. "You know what? Let me make this simple for you. Let me put it in terms you'll understand." I waited. The kitchen felt smaller suddenly, closer, like the walls were moving in. "You need me more than I need you," she said, each word carefully placed like stones on a path. "So if you don't behave properly, I will replace you." The clock above the stove kept ticking. The refrigerator kept humming. Outside, someone laughed. A neighbor, probably, walking their dog, living their normal Tuesday evening. Everything was exactly the same as it had been 10 seconds ago. Except it wasn't. Replace you. Like I was a component, a part. Something interchangeable. Something that could be swapped out for a newer model when the old one stopped functioning properly. I felt something shift in my chest. Not pain, not anger. Something colder. Something that felt like a door closing very far away, and on the other side of that door was everything I'd thought was permanent. I didn't say anything. I couldn't. Because somewhere in the back of my mind, in the part that handles logistics and problem-solving and systems thinking, a file cabinet opened. And inside that cabinet were 7 years of shared accounts, joint purchases, merged lives. 7 years of building something together, or what I'd thought was together. And I realized, standing there in our kitchen with my wife 3 feet away, that I didn't actually know what we'd built. I knew the structure, the mortgage, the cars, the accounts, the utilities. I knew the framework, but the substance, the connection, the thing that was supposed to make it all mean something, I didn't know if that had ever been real, or if I'd just been too busy laying tiles and fixing shipments to notice it was missing. "Daniel," her voice had changed, uncertain now, like she'd expected a reaction and my silence was the wrong script. "Did you hear me?" I looked at her, really looked, at the woman I'd married 7 years ago in a small ceremony at a vineyard upstate, the woman who'd worn a simple white dress and cried when she said her vows. The woman who'd laughed at my jokes and stolen my hoodies and made me feel like showing up was enough. The woman who'd said she wanted to build a life with me, not a structure, a life. That woman was gone. I didn't know when she'd left, didn't know if it was gradual or sudden, but standing there, looking at this stranger who knew my social security number and the password to our joint checking account, I understood something fundamental. She'd already replaced me. She just hadn't filed the paperwork yet. "I'm going to take a shower," I said. My voice sounded normal, calm, like we'd just been discussing what to watch on Netflix, not whether our marriage was salvageable. That's it? She stepped forward, and for a second I thought she might touch me, might reach out, might take it back. But she stopped at the edge of the island, hands on the granite I'd installed myself. That's all you have to say? What do you want me to say? I want you to fight for this. For us. I want you to show me you care. I want you to prove that you're not just going through the motions. She stopped. I want you to give me a reason to stay. I turned toward the hallway, started walking. My boots were heavy on the hardwood floor. I'd refinished that floor myself, too, stripped and sanded and stained every board while she was at a conference in Denver. I'd wanted to surprise her. She'd come home and said it looked nice and then gone upstairs to unpack. Daniel. I stopped. Didn't turn around. I mean it, she said. Her voice was steady now, certain. I will replace you. If you don't change, if you don't start showing up, I will find someone who does. Someone who sees me. Someone who makes me feel like I matter. I stood there for 3 seconds. 5. 10. Then I kept walking. I took a long shower, the kind where you just stand under the water and let it run over you until the hot water heater starts to give up. When I came out, Laura was in the bedroom, sitting on the edge of the bed with her phone. She didn't look up. I'm going to stay at Sarah's tonight, she said. I think we both need some space. Okay. Just tonight. I'll be back tomorrow after work. Okay. She looked up then, studying my face like she was trying to decode something. You're really not going to fight, are you? I stood there in my towel, water still dripping from my hair, and I thought about all the things I could say, all the arguments I could make, all the promises I could offer. But the truth was simpler than that. You told me you'd replace me, I said. That's not something you take back. That's not something you say if there's still something worth fighting for. She opened her mouth, closed it, opened it again. I was angry. I didn't mean, yes, you did. That's exactly what you meant, and now I know. Know what? Where we stand, what this is, what it isn't. She stood up, grabbed her overnight bag from the closet, already packed, I noticed, like she'd been planning this, and walked past me to the door. We'll talk tomorrow, she said. Sure. She left. I heard her go down the stairs, heard the front door open and close, heard her car start and back out of the driveway. Then I got dressed and went to my office. The house was quiet without her, not peaceful, just empty. Like a theater after everyone's gone home, when the lights are half off and the seats are all empty and you can hear every small sound amplified. I sat down at my desk in the office, the small bedroom we'd converted, the one with the window overlooking the backyard, where the grass needed mowing, the fence needed painting, and the garden Laura had planted 2 years ago was long gone, and opened my laptop. Not to work, not to answer the 17 emails waiting in my inbox, including 3 from the Hendricks account marked urgent. Not to fix the Shanghai shipment issue that was going to cascade into a disaster if I didn't handle it by morning. I opened a spreadsheet. New file. Blank cells. Cursor blinking in A1, I typed item, press tab. B1, account holder, tab. C1, payment method, tab. D1, cancellation process. Enter. Then I started filling in the rows. A2, cell phone service. B2, joint account, primary holder, Daniel Porter. C2, my credit card. D2, call customer service, remove dependent line. It was almost meditative, this cataloging. Each line a small revelation. Not because I'd forgotten, I knew I paid for things, but I'd never really seen it mapped out like this, never really understood the architecture of our shared life. Or rather, the architecture I'd built that she lived in. A3, car payment, Laura's vehicle. B3, joint loan, primary. Daniel Porter, cosigner required at time of purchase due to insufficient credit score. C3, auto deduct from joint checking. D3, request removal as cosigner, force refinance in her name only. I kept typing. The clock on the wall read 11:47 p.m. Laura would be at Sarah's by now, probably drinking wine, probably telling her side of the story, probably painting me as the distant husband who never listened, never cared, never showed up emotionally. She wouldn't be wrong, but she wouldn't be entirely right either. A4, health insurance. B4, through my employer, family plan. C4, pre-tax payroll deduction. D4, remove dependent during next benefits update period or claim qualifying life event for immediate change. A5, car insurance. B5, joint policy. Primary, Daniel Porter. C5, my account. D5, Remove vehicle from policy or split into 2 separate policies. The list kept growing. Each line was something I'd set up, something I'd maintained, something I'd paid for without thinking about it. Because that's what you did when you were married. You merged lives, you combined resources, you built infrastructure together. Except we hadn't built it together. I'd built it. She'd moved in. A6, mortgage. B6, joint ownership, primary borrower, Daniel Porter. Down payment, 80% my savings, 20% joint savings accumulated during first 2 years of marriage. C6, auto deduct from joint checking, which I fund with my paycheck. D6, NA, cannot remove without refinance or sale. That one stung. The house was the one thing I couldn't immediately touch. We'd bought it 4 years ago, right after she'd gotten her promotion and I'd landed the logistics director position at Crawford Freight Solutions. It had felt like a milestone, like we were finally adults, finally building something permanent. But looking at the spreadsheet now, I realized the permanence was an illusion. The house was just another structure, 4 walls and a roof and a mortgage payment. It wasn't a home, it was just the place where we slept separately and ate separately and lived parallel lives that occasionally intersected at the coffee maker. A7, gym membership. A8, streaming services, Netflix, Hulu, HBO, Spotify, Amazon Prime. A9, internet and cable. A10, utilities, electric, gas, water. My phone buzzed. Text message. Laura. Just got to Sarah's. She says hi. We'll talk tomorrow. I didn't respond. Another buzz. Daniel? I set the phone face down on the desk and kept typing. A11, credit cards. 3 cards, all in my name, 2 with her as authorized user. A12, Amazon account. A13, grocery delivery service. A14, pet insurance for Max. I stopped at that one. Max. The golden retriever we'd adopted 3 years ago from a rescue. Laura had wanted a dog. I'd been the one who walked him every morning before work, who took him to the vet, who trained him, who paid for his food and his toys and his annual checkups. Where was Max right now? Had Laura taken him to Sarah's? Or had she left him here, assuming I'd handle it like I handled everything else? I got up, went downstairs. Max was in his bed in the corner of the living room, one eye opening as I came in. Hey, buddy, I said. He lifted his head, tail starting to wag. At least someone was happy to see me. I sat down on the floor next to him, scratched behind his ears. He pushed his head into my hand, making that satisfied dog sound that's somewhere between a groan and a sigh. It's just us tonight, I told him. He didn't care. Dogs don't care about marital problems. They care about food and walks and whether you're paying attention to them right now, in this moment. Maybe that was the secret. Maybe dogs had it figured out and humans were just overcomplicating everything. My phone buzzed again. I ignored it. Stayed there on the floor with Max for maybe 20 minutes, just sitting, just being present in a way I apparently hadn't been present for my wife in months. Then I went back upstairs. The spreadsheet was still open, cursor blinking on line 15. I kept typing. By the time I finished, it was 2:34 a.m. 23 lines. 23 things that existed because I maintained them. 23 pieces of infrastructure that Laura depended on without thinking about it, the same way you don't think about electricity until the power goes out. I sat back, looked at the screen. 7 years of merged lives, condensed into 23 lines of text. Column E, I added a header, timeline. Then I went through each line, adding notes. E2, cell phone, immediate cancellation possible. E3, car payment, 30 days notice for cosigner removal request. E4, health insurance, immediate removal possible with qualifying life event. E5, car insurance, immediate policy change possible. I was about to close the laptop when I had another thought. Column F, impact. F2, unable to make Schuster receive calls, texts, or access data without personal plan. F3, must refinance in own name with own credit or surrender vehicle. F4, no coverage for medical care, prescriptions, or emergencies. F5, no ability to legally drive without separate policy. I kept going. Each line, each impact, each consequence. By the time I was done, it was almost 3:30. My eyes burned, my back ached from sitting. But the spreadsheet was complete, a full inventory of our shared life, with detailed notes on how to dismantle it. I saved the file, password protected it, named it Infrastructure XLX. Then I just sat there in the dark office, listening to the house settle around me. Somewhere outside, a dog barked. A car drove by, headlights briefly sweeping across the ceiling. Normal sounds. The sounds of a normal night in a normal neighborhood where normal couples were sleeping in their normal beds, living their normal lives. I wasn't tired. I was something else, something that felt like clarity, like I'd been walking through fog for months and someone had suddenly turned on all the lights. Laura thought she could replace me, thought I was the weak link, thought she held the power in this relationship because she was the one who'd said the words out loud. But power isn't about who talks loudest. Power is about infrastructure, about foundation, about who holds the keys to the systems that make everything work. And right now, I held every single key. My phone buzzed again. Different number. Not Laura. I picked it up. Text from an unknown number. Hey man, can you cover my shift tomorrow? Family emergency. Wrong number. I deleted it, but it got me thinking. I opened my laptop again, pulled up Laura's contact info from the shared account, scrolled through her recent calls and texts, not because I was snooping, but because I had access, because it was a joint account, because technically I had every right to see this information. Most of it was mundane, calls to her mother, texts with Sarah, work emails forwarded to her personal phone. But there was one number that appeared 17 times in the last 2 weeks, always after 7 p.m., never lasting more than 10 minutes. No texts, just calls. I clicked on the number, considered calling it, considered confronting whoever answered with questions I wasn't sure I wanted answers to. Instead, I just noted it, wrote it down in my physical notebook, the one I kept for work notes and project timelines, added it to the bottom of the page under a simple heading, Unknown. Then I closed everything, shut down the laptop, turned off the desk lamp, went to bed alone in our king-size bed, the one we'd picked out together at a furniture store in the city, the one Laura had insisted we needed because couples need space to sleep comfortably. I lay there in the dark, on my side of the bed, and I thought about systems, about how they're built, about how they function when every component is in place, about what happens when you remove a critical piece, about how easy it would be to flip a switch and watch everything go dark. I didn't sleep much that night, but when I did, I dreamed about spreadsheets. I didn't touch anything on Wednesday, went to work like normal. Fixed the Hendricks account. Turned out the customs issue was a simple paperwork error, easily resolved with 3 phone calls and 1 strongly worded email. Had lunch at my desk, came home at 6:15. Laura's car wasn't in the driveway. Inside, Max greeted me like I'd been gone for years instead of hours. I fed him, took him for a walk around the block, threw his tennis ball in the backyard until he was panting and happy. At 7:30, I made myself dinner, scrambled eggs and toast, ate it at the kitchen table, same spot where Laura had been sitting 2 nights ago when she'd told me I was replaceable. At 8:45, I heard her car pull in. She came through the front door carrying her work bag and her overnight bag, looking tired. She set everything down in the entryway, slipped off her shoes. "Hey," she said. "Hey, we should talk." "Okay." She came into the kitchen, poured herself water from the tap, leaned against the counter. Same spot as always, her spot. "I've been thinking," she said. I waited. "About what I said Tuesday night. About replacing you. That was harsh. I was angry and I said something I shouldn't have said." "Okay. I don't actually want to replace you, Daniel. I just want you to try, to be present, to show me that you care about us." I nodded. Didn't say anything. "Are you listening to me?" "I'm listening." "Then say something." "What do you want me to say?" She set the water glass down harder than necessary. "I want you to tell me you'll try. I want you to tell me you understand why I'm upset. I want you to tell me something, anything, that shows me you're still in this." I looked at her. Really looked. Tried to find the woman I'd married in this stranger's face. Tried to remember what it felt like to hear her laugh, to make her smile, to feel like we were on the same team. "I'll try," I said. It wasn't a lie. Not exactly. I would try, just not in the way she meant. She studied me for a long moment, then nodded. "Okay, good, that's good. We can work with that." "Sure. I'm tired. I'm going to take a shower and go to bed." "Okay." She left. I heard her go upstairs, heard the bathroom door close, heard the water start. I sat there at the kitchen table with my empty plate and my empty glass, and I thought about Thursday. Thursday, I did nothing. Watched, observed, took notes. Laura came home at 7:30. Not 7 like she usually did. Not 6:45 like she did when traffic was light. 7:30, 30 minutes unaccounted for. She was cheerful, almost aggressively cheerful. Made herself a salad, asked me how my day was, told me about a meeting she'd had with Trevor, the new VP. "He really gets it, you know," she said, fork pausing halfway to her mouth. "He understands the vision. He sees what we're trying to build." "That's good." He asked me to lead the new campaign, the one targeting the Gen Z demographic. It's a huge opportunity. Congratulations. You don't sound excited. I'm excited. It's great news. She watched me for a second, then went back to her salad. We ate in silence. It wasn't comfortable silence. It was the silence of two people who'd run out of things to say. After dinner, she went to the living room, turned on the TV, some reality show about people buying houses they couldn't afford. I cleaned up the kitchen, loaded the dishwasher, wiped down the counters. My phone was sitting on the counter, face down where I'd left it. When I picked it up, I noticed Laura had her phone on the arm of the couch, screen visible, lighting up every few minutes with notifications. I went to my office, opened the spreadsheet, added a note to line 24, A24, behavior patterns, B24, arriving home 30 plus. Minutes later, the normal schedule, increased phone activity, elevated mood inconsistent with previous emotional state. It felt clinical, detached, like I was documenting a subject instead of observing my wife. Maybe that's what she'd become, a subject, a problem to be analyzed and solved. Friday was when I saw it clearly. Laura came home at 9:45. I'd already eaten, already walked Max, already done everything that needed doing. She walked in, and her hair was different. Not messy, not undone from a long day at work. Styled, deliberately styled, with product in it. The kind of styling that takes time and effort and a mirror. Sorry I'm late, she said. Work thing ran long. No problem. I'm exhausted. I'm just going to go straight to bed. But she wasn't exhausted. Her eyes were bright. Her cheeks were flushed. She was energized. Alive in a way I hadn't seen in months. She went upstairs. I stayed in the living room, listening to her move around in the bedroom. Heard the shower start. The second shower of the day, if she'd already showered before leaving work. I opened my laptop, pulled up the spreadsheet, added another line. 8:25, Friday, 9:45 p.m. arrival. Hair styled. Claims exhaustion but displays elevated energy. Second shower of day. Then I added column G. G1, probability. And I went through each line of behavioral observations, assigning percentages. G24, 65%. G25, 85%. Combined probability, 94%. I was a logistics professional. I dealt in patterns, in data, in evidence-based conclusions. And the evidence was telling me something I'd known on Tuesday night but hadn't wanted to admit. Laura wasn't just thinking about replacing me. She already had. Saturday morning, I woke up early. Laura was still asleep, face peaceful, hair spread across her pillow. She looked young when she slept, vulnerable, like the woman I'd married was still in there somewhere, buried under whatever she'd become. I got up quietly, got dressed, went downstairs, made coffee, fed Max, sat at the kitchen table with my laptop and my spreadsheet and my meticulous documentation of a marriage falling apart in real time, and I made a decision. Not an emotional decision, not a revenge decision, just a logical one, a systems decision. If she'd already replaced me, then there was no marriage to save. There was just infrastructure to dismantle, carefully, methodically, completely. I opened a new tab, pulled up our cell phone account, logged in with my credentials, the primary account holder credentials that gave me full administrative access. The account page loaded, 2 lines, mine and Laura's. Active, in good standing. Due for renewal in 8 months. I clicked on Laura's line, scrolled through the options. Account management, line management, service changes, remove line. My cursor hovered over the button. 1 click. That's all it would take. But I didn't click yet. Instead, I opened another tab, our auto loan, logged into that account, found the cosigner release form, downloaded it, saved it to my desktop. Another tab, health insurance. My employer's benefits portal, found the dependent management section, read through the qualifying life events that would allow immediate changes outside the normal enrollment period. Divorce or legal separation, change in employment status, loss of dependent eligibility. I could claim any of those, could remove her coverage today, right now, this morning. Another tab, car insurance. Another tab, credit cards. Another tab, streaming services. I sat there with 10 tabs open, 10 accounts accessed, 10 systems ready to be dismantled with a few clicks. And I thought about Tuesday night, about the look on her face when she'd said, "I will replace you," about the certainty in her voice, about how she'd believed she was the one with power, the one holding the cards, the one who could walk away unscathed. I thought about Thursday's 30-minute delay, about Friday's styled hair and suspicious second shower, about the pattern of behavior that any reasonable person would recognize for what it was. I thought about 7 years, about vows, about promises, about the life we'd said we were going to build together. And then I started clicking. Cell phone first. Remove line. Confirm. Yes, I understand this will disconnect service immediately. Yes, I understand the number will be lost. Confirm. Processing. Processing. Done. Line disconnected. Service terminated. Effective immediately. I felt nothing. No satisfaction, no anger, just a quiet sense of completion. Like checking an item off a list. Auto loan next. Cosigner release form. Filled out my information. Requested immediate removal. Uploaded required documentation. Submitted. Request received. Review period 10 to 14 business days. Borrower will be notified of credit decision. Health insurance. Dependent removal. Reason. Separation. Effective date. Today. Confirm. Your dependent coverage has been terminated. Final day of coverage. Today at 11:59 p.m. Car insurance. Remove vehicle from policy. Effective immediately. Vehicle removed. Policy adjusted. New premium reduced by 40%. Credit cards. Removed authorized user access. 2 cards. Both done. Both instant. Streaming services. Netflix. Removed profile. Hulu. Removed profile. HBO. Removed profile. Spotify. Downgraded to individual plan. Amazon Prime. Removed household member. Click, click, click. 7 years. Dismantled in 20 minutes. I heard Laura moving upstairs. Shower running. She'd be down in 15 minutes. Maybe 20. Probably expecting a normal Saturday. Probably planning to meet Sarah for yoga, then brunch, then whatever else she had scheduled in that life she was living separately from mine. I made another pot of coffee. Fed Max again. He'd already eaten, but he wasn't going to turn down extra food. Sat back down at the table. My phone was next to the laptop. Laura's number was still in my contacts, even though the line was disconnected. I thought about calling her. Thought about explaining what I'd just done. Thought about having some dramatic confrontation where I laid out my evidence and demanded answers and played the role of the wronged husband. But that would be emotional. That would be messy. That would be giving her the chance to explain, to justify, to manipulate the narrative. No. Better to let her discover it herself. Better to let the systems speak for themselves. I heard her coming down the stairs. She was wearing black leggings and a purple tank top. Workout clothes. Hair pulled back in a ponytail. Face clean. No makeup. She looked good. She always looked good. Morning, she said, breezing into the kitchen, already reaching for her phone. Morning. She poured herself coffee. The coffee I'd made. The coffee she claimed was too strong, but drank anyway, and leaned against the counter. Her spot. Always her spot. I'm meeting Sarah at 10, she said, scrolling through her phone. Yoga, then probably brunch. Not sure when I'll be back. Okay. She kept scrolling, frowning slightly. That's weird. What? My phone. It says no service. She looked up at me. Is yours working? I pulled my phone out, checked. Full bars, full signal. Everything normal. Yeah, mine's fine. Huh. She walked over to the window, held her phone up like that would help. Like the problem was reception and not reality. Must be the carrier. It was working fine an hour ago. Probably just a temporary issue. I guess I'll call them later. She set her phone down, picked up her coffee. What are you doing today? Work stuff. Some client issues to handle. On a Saturday? Emergency. You know how it is? She nodded, apparently satisfied. Okay. Well, I'll see you later then. She grabbed her keys from the counter, her yoga mat from the hall closet, her phone from the counter, still showing no service, not that she'd noticed yet. She got to the door, paused, turned back. Daniel? Yeah? We're okay, right? I mean, after Tuesday, we're working on it? I looked at her standing in the doorway, backlit by morning sun, looking young and hopeful and completely unaware that her entire life had just shifted beneath her feet. Sure, I said. We're working on it. She smiled, relieved. Good. Okay. I'll see you tonight. The door closed. I heard her car start, back out, drive away. I sat there with my coffee, listening to the quiet house, waiting for the first phone call. It came at 11:37. Unknown number. I answered. Daniel, what the hell is going on? Laura's voice, sharp and panicked, calling from Sarah's phone, obviously. My phone isn't working. My card got declined at yoga. I tried to buy us coffee at the cafe, and my card doesn't work either. What did you do? I took a sip of my coffee. It was good coffee. Strong. The way I liked it. Good morning, Laura. Don't good morning me. What did you do? I took your advice. What advice? What are you talking about? You said you'd replace me, so I'm making room. Silence. 5 seconds. 10. Daniel, this isn't funny. I'm not laughing. You can't just... You canceled my phone? You canceled my cards? That's what, Laura? That's using my legal right to manage accounts that are in my name? That's making rational decisions about shared resources in a failing marriage? What exactly is it? It's insane. It's controlling. It's logical. You told me I was replaceable. You told me you'd find someone else if I didn't behave properly. So I'm helping you with that process. Everything you need to build a new life with your replacement? Not my problem anymore. My replacement? What are you even talking about? The person you've been seeing. The one you've been meeting on Thursday and Friday evenings. The one you styled your hair for last night. That replacement. Another silence. Longer this time. I could almost hear her mind working, calculating, trying to figure out what I knew and how I knew it. You're being paranoid. Am I? Then explain Thursday's 30-minute delay. Explain Friday's 9:45 arrival. Explain the styled hair and the second shower and the 17 phone calls to the same unknown number over the past 2 weeks. You've been tracking me. You've been monitoring my calls. I've been observing patterns. It's what I do for a living. And the pattern is pretty clear. Daniel, please. You're wrong. You're misunderstanding. Find your replacement, I said. What? Find your replacement for the phone service, for the health insurance, for the car payment, for everything else. Find whoever you've been planning to replace me with and see if he's willing to take on the infrastructure I've been maintaining for 7 years. See if he's ready to be the foundation you build your life on. You can't do this. I already did. I'll take you to court. I'll sue you for what? For managing my own accounts, for making changes to services I pay for exercising my legal rights as the primary account holder. Good luck with that. I could hear her breathing hard on the other end. Could imagine her standing in Sarah's apartment, phone pressed to her ear, face red, mind racing through options and finding none of them good. Daniel, please, let's talk about this. Let's sit down and... We did talk. Tuesday night. You told me what you needed. You told me what would happen if I didn't deliver. And now I'm delivering exactly what you asked for. Space, separation, a clean slate. Everything you need to start fresh with someone who can give you what I apparently can't. I didn't ask for this. Yes, you did. You just didn't expect me to agree. Daniel, I have to go. Work emergency, remember? You have a good day, Laura. Enjoy your yoga, enjoy your brunch, enjoy your replacement. I hung up. The phone rang again immediately. Same unknown number. I declined the call. It rang 6 more times over the next hour. I declined them all. Then I blocked the number. Then I sat in the quiet house, my house, with the mortgage in my name and the utilities I paid for and the internet connection she couldn't access anymore. And I waited. Waited for the next phase, the next move, the next consequence. Because this wasn't over. This was just beginning. At 2:15, my phone buzzed. Text from a new number. Not Laura's disconnected line. Not Sarah's number I just blocked. A new one. We need to talk. This isn't over. You can't just walk away from this. I looked at the message for a long time. At those 3 sentences. At that word. We. Not I need to talk. We need to talk. We. So there was someone else. Someone she felt comfortable bringing into this. Someone she trusted to help her handle the situation. Someone who thought he had standing to contact me directly. The replacement. I typed back slowly, deliberately, each word chosen with care. You're right. It's not over. But it's also not your business. This is between me and my wife. Or rather, my soon-to-be ex-wife. Stay out of it. I hit send. 3 seconds later, my phone rang. The new number. Calling now, not texting. I answered. Hello? Daniel, this is Eric Chambers. I work with Laura. She's here with me and she's really upset and I think you need to. I hung up. Eric Chambers. I rolled the name around in my mind. Didn't recognize it. Wasn't the unknown number from the call history. Wasn't Trevor, the new VP. Just Eric. Some guy from her office. Some guy who felt comfortable enough to call her husband on a Saturday afternoon. Some guy who Laura ran to when her life fell apart. My phone buzzed again. Text from Eric's number. That was rude. Laura needs her phone and insurance back. This is affecting her safety. You need to fix this now. I set my phone down. Ignored it. Went to the kitchen. Made lunch. Turkey sandwich. Chips. Apple. Normal Saturday lunch. Ate it at the table. Max sat next to me, hoping for scraps. I gave him some turkey. My phone kept buzzing, text after text after text. I didn't read them. At 4 o'clock, I took Max for a long walk, 2 miles through the neighborhood, past other houses where other couples were living other lives, washing cars, mowing lawns, playing with kids in driveways, normal Saturday activities. When I got back, there were 17 new messages and 4 missed calls. I deleted them all without reading them. At 6, there was a knock on the door. I looked through the peephole. Laura, standing on the front porch of the house we'd bought together, waiting to be let into the home she'd been living in for 4 years. I opened the door. She looked terrible, eyes red, makeup smeared, hair pulled back messily. Not the put-together woman who'd left that morning for yoga and brunch. "Can I come in?" I stepped aside. She walked past me into the living room, turned to face me. "We need to talk." "Okay." "What you did today was—" She stopped, started again. "I understand you're angry. I understand you feel like I hurt you, but what you did was extreme. It was vindictive. It was Tuesday's conversation put into action." "No, it wasn't. I said some things I shouldn't have said. I was angry and hurt, and I lashed out. But I didn't mean—" "You meant every word. You just didn't think I'd call your bluff." "It wasn't a bluff." "Then what was it?" She opened her mouth, closed it, opened it again. No sound came out. "That's what I thought," I said. "Daniel, please, just reset everything. Turn my phone back on. Put me back on the insurance. Give me access to the accounts again. And we can sit down and talk like adults and figure this out." "Figure what out?" "Us, our marriage, what we're going to do." I looked at her standing in our living room, in the house I'd worked overtime to afford, on the floor I'd refinished myself, asking me to undo the consequences of her own words. "There is no us, Laura. There hasn't been for months, maybe longer. We've been living parallel lives in the same house, and the only reason it took this long to fall apart is because I was too busy holding up the infrastructure to notice it was empty." "That's not true. Isn't it? When was the last time we had a real conversation? When was the last time we did anything together that wasn't logistics? When was the last time you looked at me like I was something other than a disappointing purchase you were thinking about returning?" She was crying now. Real tears. The kind that might have worked on me a week ago. "I love you," she said. "No, you don't. You love what I provide. You love the house and the security and the comfortable life I've built. But you don't love me. If you did, you wouldn't have told me I was replaceable. You wouldn't have been looking for my replacement while still sleeping in my bed. I wasn't. Don't lie. Please don't lie. Not now. Not after everything. Just have the courage to admit it." She stood there, tears running down her face, and I saw the moment she made a choice. Saw her decide whether to keep lying or to tell the truth. "His name is Eric," she said quietly. There it was, the admission, the confirmation of everything I'd already known. "Eric Chambers." "Yes." "How long?" 2 months, maybe 3. It wasn't physical, not really. We just talked. He listened. He asked me about my day. He made me feel seen. "Did you plan to leave?" "I don't know. Maybe, eventually. I was trying to figure it out. Trying to decide if what we had was worth saving or if I should just replace me." She nodded. "Replace you." "Well," I said, "now you don't have to decide. I decided for you." "Daniel, you should go. Back to Sarah's, back to Eric's, back to wherever you've been going that isn't here. Because here, this house, this life, this infrastructure, it's not yours anymore. We're still married. For now." "So what, you want a divorce?" "I want you to leave. This is my house, too." "Is it? Your name is on the deed, sure, but you don't pay the mortgage. You don't pay the utilities. You don't maintain anything. You just live here. And now you can live somewhere else." She stared at me like I was a stranger, like she'd never really known me at all. Maybe she hadn't. Maybe neither of us had really known each other. Maybe we'd just been playing roles, dutiful husband, devoted wife, without ever bothering to figure out if those roles actually meant anything. "I'll get a lawyer," she said. "Good idea. I'll take half of everything. You can try." She grabbed her keys from the side table, her purse from the chair, and walked to the door. Paused with her hand on the knob. "I did love you," she said. "Once, before everything got so complicated." "Yeah," I said. "Me too." She left. The door closed. I stood there in the living room with Max at my feet, in the house that suddenly felt bigger and emptier and quieter than it ever had before. And I realized I didn't feel victorious. Didn't feel satisfied. Didn't feel anything except tired. 7 years, gone, dismantled in one day. My phone buzzed. Text from Eric's number. You're making a huge mistake. Laura deserves better than this. I'm going to make sure she gets it. I looked at the message for a long time. Then I typed back, good luck with that. And I meant it. Because Eric Chambers had no idea what he was signing up for. Had no idea about the maintenance, the effort, the constant work required to build a life with someone. He thought he knew Laura. Thought he understood what she needed. Thought he could give her everything I couldn't. Maybe he was right. Or maybe, in 6 months or a year or 7 years, he'd be standing in his own kitchen while she told him he was replaceable too. Either way, it wasn't my problem anymore. I had my own life to rebuild. Starting now. Sunday morning came with rain, the kind that starts soft and turns steady, drumming against the windows like it has nowhere else to be. I woke up at 7, same as always, body trained by years of routine to ignore weekends. Laura's side of the bed was empty, still made. She hadn't come back after leaving yesterday evening. I got up, made coffee, fed Max, stood at the kitchen window watching water run down the glass in uneven streams. The backyard looked gray and abandoned. The garden Laura had planted was just dead stalks now, brown and broken. I should have pulled them out months ago, should have maintained it. But maintenance requires caring, and somewhere along the line I'd stopped caring about the garden the same way she'd stopped caring about us. My phone sat on the counter, silent. No messages from Laura. No calls from Eric, no contact at all. Good. I spent Sunday doing ordinary things. Laundry, cleaning, organizing the garage I'd been meaning to organize for 6 months, physical tasks that kept my hands busy and my mind quiet. Max followed me around, happy to have company, not asking questions about why things had changed. Monday morning, I went back to work like nothing had happened. Because at work, nothing had happened. The Hendricks account still needed managing, the Shanghai shipment still needed tracking, problems still needed solving. Morning, Daniel, Jenny from accounting said as I passed her desk. How was your weekend? Fine. Yours? Good. Took the kids to the zoo. They loved the penguins. That's great. Normal conversation, normal Monday. I sat at my desk, opened my computer, checked emails. 47 messages, 3 marked urgent. I worked through them methodically, same as always. At 10:30, my personal phone buzzed. Text from an unknown number. This is Margaret Chen, attorney at law. I've been retained by Laura Porter regarding separation proceedings. Please contact my office at your earliest convenience to discuss terms. So she'd moved fast. Lawyer hired within 24 hours. Oh, that took money. Money she didn't have access to anymore since I'd removed her from the credit cards, which meant someone else was funding it. I texted back. Understood. Will retain counsel and respond through appropriate channels. Professional. Clean. No emotion. Then I called a lawyer myself. Not Margaret Chen, someone else, someone I'd worked with on business contracts before. Frank Morrison, practical, straightforward, the kind of lawyer who didn't deal in drama. Daniel, good to hear from you. What can I do for you? I need a divorce attorney, someone good, someone who understands asset protection. Pause. I see. When did this become necessary? This weekend? That recent. Okay. I know someone. Patricia Reeves. She's excellent. Handles high net worth divorces, but won't overcharge you or drag things out unnecessarily. Want me to make an introduction? Yes, today, if possible. Consider it done. I'll have her call you within the hour. Thanks, Frank. Daniel? Whatever's happening, keep documentation, emails, texts, bank statements, everything. The more organized you are, the better this goes. Already doing that. Good man. Patricia Reeves called 45 minutes later. Her voice was calm, professional, slightly formal. Mr. Porter, Frank Morrison speaks highly of you. I understand you're in need of representation for a divorce proceeding. That's correct. Can you give me a brief overview of the situation? I walked her through it. 7-year marriage, joint assets, house in both names, but I paid the mortgage. No children. Wife had retained counsel. Wife had also admitted to a relationship with another man. Did she admit this in writing, text, email? Verbally, in person, Saturday evening. Any witnesses? No. That's fine. Do you have any documentation of unusual behavior? Phone records? Credit card statements showing unexplained expenses? I have call logs from our joint phone account showing repeated contact with one specific number. 17 calls over 2 weeks, all after 7 p.m. Good. Do you know who that number belongs to? Eric Chambers. He works with her. He's also the one funding her legal representation, based on timing. How do you know that? Because I removed her access to all joint accounts on Saturday morning. She had no available funds. By Sunday evening, she'd retained Margaret Chen, who doesn't work cheap. Someone gave her money, and the only someone who makes sense is him. Silence on the other end. Then a low laugh. You removed her from all accounts before she could access them? Everything that was in my name, yes. That was smart. Aggressive, but smart. Margaret's going to fight that, but you had every legal right. How much was in the joint accounts? Checking had about $8,000, savings had $42,000. And she can't access either? Not anymore. I transferred the savings to an individual account in my name only. The checking I left as is, but removed her authorization to make withdrawals. Another pause. Mr. Porter, I need to ask you something directly. Did you do any of this out of spite, or did you do it to protect assets you believed were at risk? The second one. She told me she'd replace me. She admitted to seeing someone else. The pattern suggested she was preparing to leave. I secured what was mine before she could take it. Good. That's the answer we'll use. You weren't being vindictive, you were being prudent. Now I can take your case, but I need you to understand something. This is going to get unpleasant. Margaret Chen is good at what she does, and she's going to paint you as controlling and financially abusive. She's going to argue that you trapped your wife, cut off her resources, left her helpless. We'll counter that, but it won't be easy. I understand. Do you? Because some men hear that and think they can handle it, and then they fall apart when their wife's lawyer starts making them sound like a monster in court documents. I won't fall apart. Why not? Because I didn't do anything wrong. I protected myself from someone who'd already decided to leave. That's not control. That's survival. She was quiet for a moment. Then, okay, I'll take your case. Send me everything you have. Documentation, timelines, account records, the spreadsheet you mentioned, everything. I'll review it and we'll schedule a meeting for later this week. Thank you. Mr. Porter, one more thing. Don't contact your wife directly. No calls, no texts, no emails. Everything goes through me and Margaret from now on. And don't do anything else dramatic. No more account changes, no more financial moves. We want you to look stable and reasonable, not erratic. Understood. I hung up and sat there in my office at Crawford Freight Solutions, surrounded by shipment manifests and customs forms and the ordinary problems of ordinary business, and I realized I felt calm. Not happy, not sad, just calm. Like I'd made a decision and now I was simply following through. Like this was just another logistics problem to solve, another system to optimize, another route to map from point A to point B. My work phone rang. Internal line. My boss, Richard. Daniel, can you come to my office for a minute? Sure, be right there. Richard's office was on the 3rd floor, corner space with windows overlooking the parking lot. He was in his 50s, graying at the temples, wearing the same style of polo shirt he'd worn every day for the 10 years I'd known him. Close the door, he said. I did. Sit. I sat. He looked at me across his desk, fingers steepled, expression neutral. I got a call this morning, he said, from a woman named Laura Porter. She identified herself as your wife. My stomach tightened. What did she want? She wanted to know about your employment status, your salary, your benefits, your work schedule. She said she was updating insurance information and needed to verify details. What did you tell her? I told her I couldn't discuss employee information without written authorization from the employee. She got upset, said she was your wife and had a right to know. I explained that wasn't how it works. She threatened to call our HR department directly. I told her they'd tell her the same thing. He paused. Daniel, what's going on? We're separating, as of this weekend. She's retained a divorce attorney. I've retained one too. She's probably trying to gather information for the proceedings. I see. Well, just so you know, if she calls again, she's getting the same answer. We don't disclose employee information to anyone, spouse or not, without proper authorization. But if she escalates this, if she starts calling HR or making a scene, it could become a problem. I understand. I'll handle it. Will you? Because I need my logistics director focused on logistics, not personal drama. It won't affect my work. It already is. You're in my office right now instead of managing the Hendricks account. He was right, but I kept my expression neutral. It won't happen again. See that it doesn't? You're good at what you do, Daniel. I'd hate to lose you over something like this, but I also can't have employee personal issues bleeding into company operations. Understood. Good. Now go make sure that Shanghai shipment clears customs before Wednesday. We're already behind schedule. I went back to my desk. Focused on work. Shipment manifests, customs documentation, client communications, ordinary problems with ordinary solutions. But in the back of my mind, I was thinking about Laura calling my work, about her trying to gather information, about her being desperate enough to violate basic professional boundaries. Good. Let her be desperate. Let her scramble. Let her realize that the foundation she'd been standing on wasn't hers to stand on anymore. My phone buzzed. Text from Patricia Reeves. Just got a call from Margaret Chen. She's requesting immediate mediation, wants to discuss temporary financial support for your wife. I told her we'd consider it after reviewing all assets. She wasn't happy. Expect things to move quickly from here. I texted back, ready when you are. Because I was ready. Ready for mediation. Ready for court. Ready for whatever came next. I'd spent 7 years building infrastructure for 2 people. Now I was going to find out what happened when you dismantled it carefully, methodically, and completely legally. Tuesday afternoon, I left work early. Not because I was avoiding anything, because I had an appointment with Eric Chambers. I didn't call ahead, didn't announce myself. Just drove to the address I'd found, Laura's office building, the pharmaceutical company where she'd worked for 5 years and where Eric apparently also worked. The building was modern glass and steel, 8 stories, lobby with a receptionist who looked bored. I'm here to see Eric Chambers, I said. She checked her computer. Do you have an appointment? No, but he'll want to see me. Tell him Daniel Porter is here. She picked up the phone, spoke quietly, waited. Her expression changed. Surprise, maybe, or concern. He says to send you up. 7th floor, suite 704. Thank you. The elevator was empty. I watched the numbers climb. 3, 4, 5. My reflection in the polished steel doors looked calm. Normal. Just a man in work clothes visiting an office building on a Tuesday afternoon. 7th floor. The doors opened onto a hallway with corporate artwork and motivational posters about teamwork and innovation. Suite 704 was at the end. The door was open. Inside was a standard office. Desk, computer, filing cabinets, window overlooking the parking lot. And behind the desk, Eric Chambers. He was younger than I'd expected. Early 30s, maybe. Dressed business casual, button-up shirt with no tie, hair styled carefully. Good-looking in a generic way. The kind of face that photographs well, but wouldn't stand out in a crowd. He stood when he saw me, nervous, trying to hide it. Daniel, I wasn't expecting. I know. That's why I didn't call ahead. He glanced past me into the hallway, checking if anyone was watching, then gestured to a chair. Do you want to sit? No. Okay, what can I do for you? I closed the door behind me, not aggressively, just firmly. The sound of it clicking shut made him flinch. I came to meet you, I said, face to face, man to man, since we're apparently both involved in my wife's life now. Daniel, I don't think... How long have you been sleeping with her? His face went red. We're not... She told me about you, Saturday night. Said your name, said you've been seeing each other for 2 or 3 months, said it wasn't physical, which I'm assuming was a lie, but maybe not. Maybe you're both just very good at emotional affairs without crossing that final line. Doesn't matter either way. Look, I didn't mean for any of this to happen. Laura and I just connected. She was unhappy. She needed someone to talk to. I was there. You were there, in her office, in her space, making her feel seen and heard and special. And now you're funding her divorce lawyer. I'm helping a friend. Is that what you call it? Because from where I'm standing, it looks like you're helping someone leave their marriage so you can step into the space they leave behind. He straightened his shoulders, trying to look confident. Laura deserves to be happy. You weren't making her happy? Someone had to. And that someone is you. Yes. I took a step closer. He didn't step back, but I saw his hand twitch toward his phone. Do you know what you're getting into? I asked. Do you actually understand what it takes to build a life with someone? The work, the compromise, the maintenance, the constant grinding effort of showing up every single day even when you don't feel like it. I know enough. You know nothing. You know the fun part. The part where she's unhappy with me and happy with you, the part where she talks about her dreams and you listen and she feels connected. But you don't know the rest, the boring parts, the hard parts, the parts where she tells you you're not enough and she needs more, and if you don't deliver, she'll replace you too. That's not going to happen. It's exactly what's going to happen. Because Laura doesn't want a partner. She wants a service provider. She wants someone to maintain the infrastructure of her life while she focuses on feeling fulfilled. And when that person stops delivering the way she wants, she upgrades, like a phone, like a car, like any other replaceable component. You're wrong. Am I? Then why did you pay for her lawyer? Why did she come to you instead of figuring it out herself? Because she needed you to solve the problem I created when I stopped being her foundation. He was getting angry now. I could see it in his jaw, in his posture. What do you want, Daniel? Why are you here? I'm here to give you a warning. Not a threat. A warning. You're stepping into something you don't understand. You think you're rescuing her. You're not. You're just becoming the next version of me. And in a few years, when she gets bored or frustrated or decides you're not making her feel special anymore, she'll find someone else. Someone younger. Someone more attentive. Someone who makes her feel seen in ways you've stopped providing. And she'll tell you the same thing she told me. Which is? That you're replaceable. He stared at me. I stared back. You need to leave, he said. This is my office. You're not welcome here. I'm already leaving, but Eric, one more thing. Laura told me it wasn't physical. I'm guessing that was a lie. But if it wasn't, if you two really have been keeping it emotional, then you should know something. What? The first time is going to be amazing. She's going to make you feel like the hero. Like you saved her. Like you're everything I wasn't. And you're going to think you won. But you didn't win. You just inherited my problems. And problems don't disappear when you change partners. They just wear different faces. I opened the door, stepped into the hallway. He was still standing behind his desk, fists clenched, face red. Stay away from Laura, he said. Stay away from me. If you show up here again, I'm calling security. I won't be back. I got what I came for. Which is? Confirmation. I left, took the elevator down, walked through the lobby, got in my car, drove away, and the whole time I felt nothing. No anger, no satisfaction, no vindication, just clarity. Eric Chambers thought he was the hero of this story, thought he was rescuing Laura from a bad marriage and offering her something better, but he wasn't the hero. He was just the next chapter, and chapters end. I drove home, walked Max, made dinner, sat at the kitchen table with my laptop and updated my documentation, added a new entry. Tuesday, 4:30 p.m., met with Eric Chambers at his office, confirmed relationship with Laura, confirmed financial support for legal proceedings. Subject appears invested in relationship but naive about long-term implications. Clinical, detached, professional. Patricia Reeves called at 7. Margaret Chen has filed a motion for temporary spousal support. She's arguing that you've left Laura without resources and she needs financial assistance to maintain basic living expenses. The hearing is scheduled for next Monday. What do they want? $3,000 a month, plus coverage for health insurance and phone service. That's more than half my take-home pay. I know, we're going to argue against it. You've only been separated for 3 days. There's no established need. She has income of her own. And she has Eric Chambers, though we can't prove he's supporting her yet. What do I need to do? Show up, dress professionally, be calm. Don't react to anything Margaret says about you. Let me handle it. Okay. Daniel, how are you holding up? The question surprised me. Patricia Reeves didn't seem like the type to ask about feelings. I'm fine. Are you? Because this is the part where most men start to break down. The reality hits. The anger comes, the regret, the what-ifs. If you need to talk to someone, a therapist, or... I'm fine, I said again. Really. And I was, because I'd already done my grieving, already processed the loss, already accepted that the marriage was over. Now I was just managing the logistics. Wednesday passed. Thursday passed. Ordinary days with ordinary work. The Hendricks account stabilized. The Shanghai shipment cleared customs. Problems got solved. Friday evening, my doorbell rang. I looked through the peephole. Laura. Alone. Standing on the porch with her arms crossed, looking cold. I opened the door. Hi, she said. Hi. Can I come in? Just for a few minutes. I need to pick up some things. I stepped aside. She came in moving carefully, like she wasn't sure if this was still her space or not. What do you need? Clothes, some personal items, my laptop. I left it in the office. Okay, go ahead. She went upstairs. I stayed in the living room with Max, listening to her move around above me, drawers opening, closet doors, footsteps back and forth. She came down 10 minutes later carrying a suitcase and her laptop bag. Thank you, she said. Sure. She got to the door, then stopped. Turned back. I went to see a therapist this week, she said. She asked me why I stayed as long as I did. In the marriage. I couldn't answer her. Maybe because it was comfortable. Maybe. Or maybe because I kept hoping you'd change. That you'd suddenly become the person I needed you to be. That you'd wake up one day and decide to fight for us. I did fight. I just fought differently than you wanted. By cutting off my resources? By dismantling everything? That's not fighting, Daniel. That's giving up. No, that's accepting reality. You'd already given up months ago. I just made it official. She looked at me for a long moment. Her eyes were wet, but she wasn't crying. I saw Eric, I said. Tuesday, at his office. Her face went pale. You did what? I went to meet him, face to face, man to man. Why would you do that? Because I wanted to see what I was being replaced with, wanted to understand who you'd chosen over 7 years of marriage. And he's exactly what I expected. Young, eager, naive. He thinks he's saving you, thinks he's giving you something I couldn't. But he's just me 5 years ago, before the reality set in. You don't know him. I know enough. I know he paid for your lawyer. I know he's supporting you financially. I know he thinks this is going to work out differently than it will. It will work out differently, because Eric actually listens, Eric actually cares, Eric actually makes me feel like I matter. For now, but it won't last. The energy of the new relationship will fade, the novelty will wear off, and you too will start to notice all his flaws. And then you'll find someone else, and the cycle will repeat, because the problem isn't me or Eric or whoever comes next. The problem is you. She swung and... The sound echoed through the quiet house. My cheek stung. Max jumped out of bed, alert. Don't you dare, she said, voice shaking. Don't you dare make this my fault. You checked out of this marriage long before I did. You stopped trying. You stopped caring. You turned me into a roommate and then acted surprised when I went looking for connection somewhere else. You're right. I did stop trying, because trying meant nothing. I could work 60 hours a week or 40, could take you to dinner or not, could ask about your day or not, and it never changed anything. You were already gone. I was just too busy maintaining everything to notice. She picked up her suitcase. I should go. Yeah, you should. She opened the door. Cold air rushed in. The hearing is Monday, she said without turning around. My lawyer says I'll get the support I'm asking for. Says what you did was controlling and the judge won't like it. We'll see. I hope it was worth it, Daniel. I hope cutting me off and making me suffer was worth destroying everything we built. I didn't destroy it, Laura. You did, when you told me I was replaceable, when you started seeing Eric, when you gave up on us and started planning your exit. I just expedited the process. She left without responding. The door closed. I stood there with my stinging cheek and my empty house and my dog looking at me with concerned eyes. It's okay, Max, I said. We're okay. But I wasn't sure if that was true. The weekend was quiet. I spent Saturday working on the house, fixed a leaky faucet in the upstairs bathroom, replaced the air filter in the HVAC system, cleaned the gutters. Maintenance tasks I'd been putting off for months. Sunday I took Max to the dog park. Let him run with other dogs while I sat on a bench and watched. Normal weekend activity, normal divorced guy with a dog behavior. A woman sat down next to me. Mid-30s, blonde, dressed in expensive athletic wear. Her dog, a small terrier, was playing with Max. Your golden is beautiful, she said. Thanks, his name is Max. I'm Jennifer, this is Pepper. Daniel. We sat in comfortable silence for a minute, watching the dogs. Then she turned to me. I've seen you here before. You usually come Sundays. Usually, yeah. Alone? Alone, she smiled. Me too. Well, alone, except for Pepper. Divorced 8 months ago, still getting used to the single life. I'm not divorced yet, just separated, as of last weekend. Ah, fresh. That's tough. How are you holding up? Fine. Better than expected, actually. Good for you. A lot of men fall apart during this phase. Get angry, get depressed, start making bad decisions. I'm trying to avoid that. Smart. My ex made every bad decision possible. Maxed out credit cards trying to spite me, fought over things that didn't matter, made the whole process take twice as long as it needed to. By the end, I was more exhausted than heartbroken. Sorry you went through that. Don't be. I'm better off now. Happier, more myself. She paused. Can I give you some unsolicited advice? Sure. Don't let this make you bitter. Don't let what she did, or what you did, turn you into someone you're not. It's easy to get so focused on winning the battle that you lose yourself in the process. I thought about that, about the spreadsheets, about the systematic dismantling of our shared life, about visiting Eric's office, about documentation and strategies and treating my marriage like a logistics problem to solve. Maybe I already have, I said. Then stop. Right now, before it gets worse. Because bitterness is a poison, and it spreads. It'll affect your work, your friendships, your future relationships. Don't give your ex that power. She called me replaceable. The words came out before I could stop them. Jennifer looked at me, really looked, with an expression that was part sympathy, part understanding. Ouch, that's harsh. Yeah, but you know what? She was wrong. Nobody's replaceable. Oh, people aren't components. They're not parts in a machine. Every person brings something unique. And if she couldn't see that, if she couldn't see what you brought to the marriage, then that's her failure, not yours. Max came running over, panting, happy. He pushed his head into my lap. He clearly knows you're not replaceable, Jennifer said. I scratched behind his ears. Dogs are easier than people. Absolutely. Hey, listen, I don't want to overstep, but if you ever want to talk, just talk. Nothing weird. Here's my number. She pulled out her phone. What's yours? I gave it to her. She sent me a text. There. Now you have mine too. Use it or don't. But the offer stands. Sometimes it helps to talk to someone who's been through it. Thank you. No problem. Come on, Pepper. Time to go. She stood, called her dog. See you around, Daniel. See you. She left. I sat there for a few more minutes, processing the conversation, thinking about bitterness, about revenge, about whether I'd already crossed a line I couldn't uncross. My phone buzzed. Text from Patricia Reeves. Reminder, hearing tomorrow at 10 a.m., County Courthouse, 4th floor. Arrive 15 minutes early, dress professionally. Bring documentation I requested. I texted back, we'll be there. Monday morning, I put on my best suit. Dark gray, white shirt, blue tie. The outfit I wore to important client meetings. Professional, serious, responsible. I arrived at the courthouse at 9:40. The building was old brick with marble floors and too much echo. Patricia was waiting in the hallway outside courtroom 4B. Good, you're early. How are you feeling? Fine. Nervous? No. She studied me. You should be at least a little nervous. Judges are unpredictable, and Margaret is very good at what she does. I'm prepared. Good. Remember, don't speak unless the judge addresses you directly. Let me handle everything. If Margaret says something that makes you angry, don't react. Keep your face neutral. The judge is watching you as much as he's listening to arguments. Understood. At 9:55, Margaret Chen arrived with Laura. Margaret was in her 40s, sharp suit, briefcase, expression all business. Laura was in a dress I'd never seen before, conservative, professional, the kind of outfit designed to make her look vulnerable and sympathetic. She looked at me. I looked back. Neither of us spoke. All rise. We stood. The judge entered. Judge William Harrison, according to the nameplate on his bench. 60s, gray hair, reading glasses, expression suggesting he'd heard every excuse and argument 1,000 times before. Please be seated. Case number 2024, DR 7832, Porter versus Porter. Motion for temporary spousal support. Counsel, please introduce yourselves. Patricia Reeves for the respondent, Your Honor. Margaret Chen for the petitioner, Your Honor. Ms. Chen, this is your motion. Please proceed. Margaret stood. Thank you, Your Honor. My client, Laura Porter, has been married to the respondent for 7 years. On Saturday, December 21st, without warning or discussion, Mr. Porter terminated her access to all joint financial resources. He canceled her cell phone service, removed her from health insurance, removed her as an authorized user on credit cards, and denied her access to joint bank accounts containing over $50,000. My client has been left without the means to support herself or maintain basic living expenses. The judge looked at me, then at Patricia. Ms. Reeves, is this accurate? Patricia stood. Yes, Your Honor, but with important context. Mr. Porter removed his wife from accounts that were in his name after she explicitly told him she intended to replace him. Mrs. Porter admitted to an ongoing relationship with another man and demonstrated clear intent to end the marriage. Mr. Porter was protecting assets he reasonably believed were at risk. Your Honor, Margaret interrupted, whatever marital difficulties existed, Mr. Porter's actions were extreme and vindictive. He has left my client unable to access medical care, unable to communicate via her phone, unable to purchase basic necessities. Judge Harrison held up his hand. I'll hear from Mrs. Porter. Mrs. Porter, please stand. Laura stood. She looked nervous, small, exactly how Margaret wanted her to look. Mrs. Porter, do you have income of your own? Yes, Your Honor. I work in marketing. I make approximately $60,000 annually. And do you have access to those funds? Yes, but I was depending on joint resources for major expenses. The mortgage, utilities, insurances. Mr. Porter paid for all of those because the accounts were in his name. Did you contribute to the household financially during the marriage? I paid for groceries, household items, some utilities, but he controlled the major accounts. Mrs. Porter, when did you last have access to the joint accounts? Saturday morning, before he canceled everything. And how much was in those accounts? About $8,000 in checking, $42,000 in savings. And you haven't accessed any of those funds? I can't. He removed my access and transferred the savings to his own account. The judge looked at me. Mr. Porter, please stand. I stood. Did you transfer marital assets to an individual account? Yes, Your Honor. Why? Because my wife told me she intended to end our marriage and replace me with another man. I believed the assets were at risk of being depleted or misused. I acted to preserve them. Did she threaten to take the money? Not explicitly, but the pattern of behavior suggested planning for departure. What pattern? Unexplained absences, changed schedule, admission of a relationship with a coworker. The relationship was funded somehow, and the logical source was joint funds. Margaret stood. Your Honor, Mr. Porter is speculating. There's no evidence that my client misused any funds. He's simply trying to justify his controlling behavior. Judge Harrison looked back at Laura. Mrs. Porter, have you been receiving financial support from anyone else since Saturday? Laura hesitated. Margaret touched her arm, whispered something. Your Honor, Margaret said, my client has received some temporary assistance from a friend to cover immediate expenses. What friend? Another hesitation. Eric Chambers, Your Honor. He's a co-worker. The same co-worker mentioned in the relationship? Yes. How much assistance has he provided? He paid for my legal representation and has been helping with temporary housing. The judge sat back, looked at both sides, looked at his notes. Here's what I'm going to do. Mrs. Porter, you have your own income and you have demonstrated access to support from Mr. Chambers. While I'm troubled by Mr. Porter's unilateral actions, I'm also troubled by the fact that you've already secured alternative resources. I'm going to order temporary support of $1,000 per month to be paid by Mr. Porter to Mrs. Porter, effective immediately and continuing until final disposition. However, this amount is subject to revision if circumstances change. Mr. Porter, you are also ordered to maintain health insurance coverage for Mrs. Porter through your employer plan, assuming that option is available. As for the joint accounts, both parties are prohibited from depleting or transferring funds until we have a full accounting of marital assets. Do both parties understand? Yes, Your Honor, Patricia said. Yes, Your Honor, Margaret said. Good. Next hearing is scheduled for February 3rd to address permanent support and asset division. Counsel, please work together to exchange financial disclosures by January 15th. This hearing is adjourned. He banged his gavel. Everyone stood. The judge left. Margaret and Laura packed up quickly, whispering to each other. Margaret looked satisfied. Laura looked relieved. Patricia turned to me. That could have been worse. Could it? She asked for $3,000. You're paying $1,000, and you get to keep the savings account pending full review. I call that a win. I'm paying her to leave me. You're paying her temporary support during dissolution proceedings. It's standard, and it's a lot less than she wanted. Come on, let's go somewhere quiet and talk. We went to a coffee shop 2 blocks from the courthouse, ordered coffee, sat at a corner table. How do you feel? Patricia asked. Like I just funded Eric Chambers' new relationship. Maybe, but that's not your concern anymore. Your concern is getting through this divorce with your assets protected and your dignity intact. Today was step 1. The judge saw that Laura has resources. He saw that she's being supported by another man. That matters. It establishes a pattern. What's step 2? We prepare for the asset hearing. We document everything. We show that you were the primary financial contributor throughout the marriage. We show that the house, the savings, the infrastructure, all of it exists because of you. And we argue for a distribution that reflects that reality. When does this end? Realistically, 4 to 6 months, assuming Laura doesn't drag it out. She will. Maybe. Or maybe Eric will get tired of funding her legal bills and she'll settle. Either way, you stay the course. You keep working, you keep documenting, you keep living your life. Don't give her or Margaret any ammunition. I nodded, drank my coffee, thought about Jennifer's warning about bitterness. Patricia, can I ask you something? Of course. Do I seem bitter to you? Angry? She considered the question. You seem controlled, focused, maybe a little too controlled, like you're holding something back. Is that bad? Not necessarily, but make sure you're controlling your emotions, not suppressing them. There's a difference. One is healthy, the other is a time bomb. I finished my coffee, thanked her, drove to work, walked into Crawford Freight Solutions at 12:30. Jenny from accounting waved. How'd it go? Fine. Just fine? Yeah, just fine. I sat at my desk, opened my computer, checked emails, 42 messages, 2 marked urgent, and I realized Patricia was right. I was holding something back, something that felt like anger, but sharper, more focused, not at Laura, not even at Eric, at myself, for building a life so carefully, so methodically, so completely, and never noticing it was empty. January came cold and gray, the kind of winter that makes everything feel smaller, darker, more claustrophobic. I fell into a routine, work, home, max, repeat. The $1,000 a month went out of my account automatically on the 1st. I didn't think about it. Didn't let myself calculate how much I was paying for Laura to build a new life with someone else. Patricia called every few days with updates. Financial disclosures were due January 15th. Laura's lawyer was requesting documentation of every account, every asset, every transaction for the past 3 years. I compiled it all methodically. Bank statements, pay stubs, investment accounts, mortgage records, credit card histories, 7 years of financial life, condensed into PDF files and spreadsheets. This is very thorough, Patricia said when I sent her the final package. Almost obsessively thorough. I work in logistics. Thorough is what I do. Well, it's going to help. Margaret won't be able to claim you're hiding anything. But Daniel, one question. Why do you have separate documentation of every expense Laura made on the joint credit cards? Because I wanted to see the pattern. What pattern? The pattern of where she was spending time, what she was buying, who she was with. Silence on the other end. Then, please tell me you're not planning to use that in court. Why not? It's relevant. It makes you look obsessive, controlling, like you were monitoring her. Margaret will use it to paint you as someone who tracked his wife's every move. I wasn't tracking her. I was observing data that was already available to me. The judge won't see the difference. Don't include it in the official disclosures. Keep it for yourself if you want, but don't give Margaret that weapon. I deleted the expense analysis from the disclosure package, but I kept my own copy, filed it away in a folder labeled Observations, because patterns mattered, and Laura's pattern was becoming very clear. She'd gone silent after the hearing. No texts, no calls, no attempts to pick up more items from the house. Just absence. Like she'd moved on completely and was waiting for the paperwork to catch up. But Eric hadn't gone silent. I started noticing things. Small things. A car parked across the street from my house one evening. Dark sedan, tinted windows. It stayed for 2 hours, then left. I wrote down the license plate. 3 days later, the same car. Different time, same location. I didn't confront it, didn't approach, just documented date, time, duration, license plate number. The 4th time it appeared, I walked outside casually, like I was checking the mail. The car started immediately and drove away. But not before I got a clear look at the driver, Eric Chambers. He was watching me, monitoring me, maybe checking if I had visitors, maybe looking for evidence of something he could use against me, maybe just being territorial. I went inside and called Patricia. Laura's boyfriend has been parking outside my house 4 times in the past 2 weeks, just sitting there, watching. Has he approached you? Threatened you? No, just surveillance. Document it. Dates, times, photos if you can get them. If it continues, we can file a harassment claim. But right now it's just creepy, not illegal. What if he escalates? Then we deal with it. But Daniel, don't engage. Don't confront him. Don't give him any reason to claim you're the aggressor. Stay calm, stay clean, let him make the mistakes. I hung up and looked out the window. The street was empty. Normal suburban silence. But I didn't feel safe anymore. Didn't feel like my home was my own. Eric was making this personal, and personal meant unpredictable. The next Saturday, I was in the garage reorganizing tools when I heard something outside. A scraping sound. Metal on metal. I went to investigate. My car, the truck I'd owned for 6 years, the one I'd maintained carefully, the one that had never given me problems, had a long scratch down the passenger side. Fresh. Deep enough to cut through the paint to the primer. I checked the security camera I'd installed above the garage door. Reviewed the footage. 3 a.m. that morning, a figure in dark clothes and a hood, walked up the driveway, took something from their pocket, looked like a key or a screwdriver, dragged it along the side of the truck. 30 seconds, then walked away calmly. I couldn't see the face, but I could see the build, the height, the gait, Eric Chambers. I called Patricia again. He vandalized my truck. I have video. Can you identify him in the video? Not definitively, but the build matches, the height matches, and he's been stalking my house. Send me the video. I'll review it. If we can establish it's him, we can pursue charges. But Daniel, you need to file a police report regardless. I called the non-emergency line. An officer came out 2 hours later. Young guy, looked bored. Vandalism like this is pretty common, he said, taking notes. Usually, kids. Random mischief. It's not random. I have reason to believe it's someone specific. Do you have proof? I have video of someone doing it. I believe it's my wife's boyfriend. His expression changed. Interested now. Your wife's boyfriend? We're separated, going through a divorce. He's been harassing me. Has he threatened you directly? No, but he's been surveilling my house, parking across the street, watching, and now this. Can you identify him in the video? The face isn't visible, but the physical characteristics match. He took the report, gave me a case number, said someone from investigations would follow up. Didn't sound optimistic. After he left, I went inside and opened my laptop, pulled up Eric's social media profiles, LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram. He'd been careful. No posts about Laura, no obvious evidence of their relationship, but his check-ins told a story. The same restaurant Laura had mentioned liking, the same yoga studio where she'd been going, the same coffee shop 2 blocks from her office. He was integrating into her life, becoming part of her routine, replacing me in all the small ways that mattered, and now he was trying to intimidate me. I thought about driving to his apartment, confronting him, making it clear that vandalism and stalking had consequences. But Patricia's voice echoed in my head. Don't engage. Don't give him ammunition. Stay calm. So instead, I upgraded my security, installed cameras on all sides of the house, motion-activated lights, a video doorbell, turned my home into a surveillance system. If Eric wanted to play games, I'd make sure every move was documented. Monday morning, I was at work when my phone rang. Unknown number. Daniel Porter? Yes. This is Detective Sarah Kovac, Metro Police. I'm calling about the vandalism report you filed Saturday. Do you have a few minutes to talk? Yes. Great. I reviewed the case file and the video footage you provided. I have some questions. First, you mentioned you believe the suspect is Eric Chambers. What's your relationship with Mr. Chambers? He's involved with my wife. We're currently separated and going through divorce proceedings. And you believe he vandalized your vehicle as retaliation? I believe he's been harassing me for weeks. Surveillance, intimidation. This is an escalation. The video doesn't show a clear face. Can you explain why you believe it's Mr. Chambers specifically? I walked her through it. The height, the build, the pattern of surveillance, the timing correlating with the divorce proceedings. I understand your suspicion, she said, but without a positive identification, it's difficult to pursue charges. Has Mr. Chambers made any direct threats? No. Has he contacted you in any way that feels threatening? He texted me once, after I canceled my wife's phone service, told me I was making a mistake. Do you still have that text? Yes. Can you forward it to me, along with any other communications from him? I will. Mr. Porter, I'm going to be honest with you. Cases like this are hard to prosecute. Circumstantial evidence, no witnesses, no clear identification. Unless he does something more overt, there's not much we can do. But I'll keep the case active, and if anything else happens, call immediately. Don't wait. Don't try to handle it yourself. Understood. And Mr. Porter, be careful. Divorce situations can get volatile. If you feel unsafe, if you feel threatened, call 911. Don't hesitate. I hung up and sat at my desk, staring at my computer screen without seeing it. Eric was escalating, and the police couldn't or wouldn't stop him, which meant I had to. Not violently, not illegally, but strategically. I pulled up LinkedIn again, looked at Eric's profile. He worked for the same pharmaceutical company as Laura, but in a different department. Sales, regional territory manager. Good salary based on the typical range for that position. Company car, expense account, company car. I called the main number for the pharmaceutical company, navigated the phone tree, got transferred 3 times. Finally reached someone in fleet management. Hi, I'm calling to report a vehicle concern. One of your company vehicles was involved in an incident near my property, and I need to file a report. What kind of incident? Potential hit and run. The vehicle was on my street at 3 a.m. I have security footage. Can you identify the vehicle? Dark sedan. I have partial plate numbers, and I believe I can identify the driver as one of your employees. Hold, please. 5 minutes? 10? Then a new voice, male, authority in his tone. This is Robert Chen, Fleet Operations Manager. I understand you have concerns about one of our vehicles. Yes, I have security footage of what appears to be a company vehicle on my property at 3 a.m. The driver engaged in suspicious behavior. Suspicious how? The driver appeared to be vandalizing private property. Pause. And you believe this was one of our employees? I believe it was Eric Chambers. He drives a company vehicle, dark sedan. The plate numbers partially match. Mr. Porter, if you're alleging that one of our employees committed a crime using company property, you need to go through proper channels. File a police report. Contact our legal department. I have filed a police report, case number 2025-00384, and I'm informing you as a courtesy that your company vehicle may have been involved in criminal activity. I thought your legal department would want to know before this becomes a larger issue. Another pause. Longer this time. I'll look into this and get back to you. Thank you. I hung up and smiled for the first time in days, because Eric had just made a critical mistake. He'd used a company vehicle to commit vandalism, which meant his employer had liability, which meant they'd investigate, which meant his job was now at risk. And without his job, he couldn't afford to fund Laura's divorce. The system was working exactly as designed. 2 weeks passed. The scratch on my truck got repaired. $800, which I documented carefully for the insurance claim and the police report. The surveillance cameras recorded nothing unusual. Eric's car didn't appear across the street anymore, but something else happened. Laura called me, first time since the court hearing. I almost didn't answer, but curiosity won. Hello? Daniel, we need to talk. Her voice was different, strained, worried. We have lawyers for that. This isn't about the divorce. It's about Eric. I sat up straighter. What about him? He lost his job last week. They fired him, and he thinks you're responsible. Why would he think that? Because his manager said there was a complaint filed about his company vehicle, about him using it inappropriately, about him being somewhere he shouldn't have been. Daniel, did you call his company? I reported a vehicle I saw on my property at 3 a.m. I reported it to the police and to the fleet management company whose vehicle it was. That's not inappropriate. That's responsible. You got him fired. No, he got himself fired when he used his company car to vandalize my truck. I just reported what happened. What his employer did with that information is their decision, not mine. He's falling apart, Daniel. He's angry. He's scared. He doesn't know how he's going to pay his rent, his car payment, anything, and he blames you. That's not my problem. It is your problem, because he's talking about confronting you, about making you pay for what you did. I'm calling to warn you. Stay away from him, please. I'm not going anywhere near him. I'm staying in my house, living my life. If he comes near me, that's his choice and his problem. Daniel, I'm serious. He's not stable right now. He's not the person I thought he was. What does that mean? Silence. Long enough that I thought she'd hung up. Laura. It means I made a mistake. Eric seemed different. Seemed like everything you weren't. But now that things are hard, now that money's tight and the pressure's on, he's showing me who he really is. And it's not good. So you're saying you want to come back? Want to reconcile? No. God, no. We're done, Daniel. We've been done for a long time. I'm just saying I understand now. What you were trying to tell me, about the work, about the maintenance, about how easy it is to seem perfect when everything's going well. Congratulations on your enlightenment, but it doesn't change anything. I know, I wanted you to know that I'm sorry for what I said, for how I handled things, for all of it. Okay. That's it? Just okay? What do you want me to say, Laura? That I forgive you? That we can be friends? That this was all just a misunderstanding and we'll laugh about it someday? None of that is true. You told me I was replaceable. You replaced me. And now you're learning that relationships are work, regardless of who you're with. I'm glad you figured it out. But it's too late for us. I know. I just wanted to hear your voice. Wanted to know you're okay. I'm fine. Are you? Really? I thought about that question, about the surveillance cameras, about the spreadsheets, about the systematic dismantling of everything we'd built, about the cold efficiency with which I'd removed her from my life. I'm fine, I said again. Daniel, be careful, please. Eric he's not thinking clearly. He might do something rash. I'll be careful. Okay, goodbye, Daniel. Goodbye, Laura. She hung up. I sat there holding my phone, processing the conversation. Laura was having regrets. Eric was unstable. The situation was deteriorating. I called Patricia. Laura just called, warned me that Eric lost his job and might be planning to confront me. Did she say what kind of confrontation? No, just that he's not stable and I should be careful. Okay, document this call. Time, date, content. If Eric does approach you, call 911 immediately. Don't engage, don't argue. Just get away and call for help. What if he shows up at my house? Same thing, don't answer the door. Call 911. Let the police handle it. And Daniel? Maybe consider staying somewhere else for a few days, with family or friends. Just until things cool down. I'm not leaving my house because of him. Then at least be vigilant. Vary your routine, park in different spots, check your surroundings. Don't make yourself an easy target. I thanked her and hung up. Looked around my house, my fortress, with its cameras and motion lights and reinforced locks. I'd turned it into a bunker without meaning to, and now I was living in a state of siege. That evening, I was making dinner when Max started barking. Deep, aggressive barks. Not his normal alert bark, his threat bark. I went to the window, a car in the driveway, Eric's car, and Eric standing next to it looking at the house. I grabbed my phone, dialed 911, kept watching through the window. 911, what's your emergency? There's someone on my property, someone who's been harassing me. I need police response. What's your address? I gave it. Is the person threatening you? Not currently, but he's on my property without permission, and I've filed previous reports about his harassment. Officers are on the way. Stay inside. Lock your doors. Don't engage with the individual. Understood. Eric was walking toward the front door now. Slow, deliberate. His hands were empty, but his posture was aggressive. He knocked, hard, 3 times. Daniel, I know you're in there. We need to talk. Max was going crazy. I held his collar, kept him back from the door. Daniel, you ruined my life. You got me fired. You took everything from me. More knocking, then pounding. Open the door. Be a man and face me. I stayed silent, kept watching through the window, my phone still connected to 911. Sir, are you still there? The dispatcher asked. Yes, he's at my front door, pounding on it, yelling. Officers are 3 minutes away. Stay on the line. Eric stopped pounding, stepped back, looked up at the security cameras. I see you watching, Daniel, hiding behind your cameras and your locks. You think you're so smart. You think you won. He walked back to his car. For a second, I thought he was leaving. Then he opened the trunk and pulled out a baseball bat. Oh no, I said. Sir, what's happening? The dispatcher asked. He has a bat. He just pulled out a baseball bat. Officers are 2 minutes out. Stay inside. Do not go outside. Eric walked to my truck, the one he'd already scratched, and he swung the bat. The passenger side mirror exploded. Glass everywhere. He swung again. The windshield. Spiderweb cracks spreading across it. Again. The driver's side window. Shattered. He did it methodically. He wiped every panel, every window, every light fixture, destroying my truck piece by piece while I watched from inside. Max was losing his mind. I could barely hold him back. Sir, the officers are turning onto your street now. I heard the sirens. Eric heard them too. He stopped mid-swing, looked toward the sound. Then he dropped the bat, got in his car, started to back out of the driveway. But the police cars were already there, 2 of them, blocking him in. Officers got out, hands on their weapons. Turn off the vehicle. Show me your hands. Eric complied, hands up, visible. He was yelling something, but I couldn't hear it through the window. The officers approached. One kept his weapon drawn while the other handcuffed Eric. They walked him to one of the patrol cars, put him in the back seat. Then one officer came to my door. I opened it. Mr. Porter? Daniel Porter? Yes. I'm Officer Williams. Are you injured? No, I stayed inside like the dispatcher said. Good. Can you tell me what happened? I walked him through it. Eric showing up. The yelling. The bat. The destruction of my truck. We have him in custody. The vehicle and the bat are evidence. Do you want to press charges? Absolutely. Understood. We'll need a statement, and you'll want to document all damages for insurance and the court case. I have security camera footage of the entire incident. Even better, can you send that to me? He gave me his email. I sent the footage while he watched on his phone. This is clear-cut. destruction of property, criminal trespass, possibly assault given the threatening behavior. He's going to be charged, probably held until arraignment. What happens then? Depends on the judge. He might make bail, might not. Either way, we'll request a restraining order. He won't be allowed within 500 feet of you or your property. Thank you. You did the right thing, Mr. Porter. Staying inside, calling immediately, not confronting him. A lot of people in your situation would have gone outside and things would have escalated. You stayed smart. After they left, taking Eric in custody, towing his car as evidence, I stood in my driveway looking at my destroyed truck. Every window broken, every panel dented, the mirrors hanging by wires. $15,000 in damage, easily, but I had it all on camera. Had Eric's face clearly visible, had every swing of the bat documented in high definition. And now he had a criminal record. I called Patricia. Eric just attacked my truck with a baseball bat in my driveway while I watched. The police arrested him. Are you okay? I'm fine. I stayed inside, called 911, did everything right. Good. This changes everything. Margaret can't argue that you're the aggressor anymore, can't claim you're controlling or vindictive. Eric just proved he's unstable, violent, dangerous. This is going to help your case significantly. I didn't plan this. I know, but sometimes things work out. Send me the police report and the security footage. I'll make sure Margaret gets copies. And Daniel, you might want to stay somewhere else tonight, just in case Eric makes bail. I'm not leaving my house. Then at least have someone there with you, a friend, family. Don't be alone. I thought about that, about who I could call, who I trusted enough to let into my life right now. Jennifer from the dog park. I found her number, texted her. Hey, this is Daniel, the guy with the golden retriever. Something happened tonight. Would you be willing to come over? I could use some company, just talking. Nothing weird? She responded within 5 minutes. OMG, yes. Give me your address. I'll be there in 20 minutes. She showed up with pepper and a bottle of wine. Tell me everything, she said. So I did. Jennifer stayed until midnight. We sat in the living room, dogs at our feet, and I told her the whole story. Tuesday night, the cancellations, the court hearing, Eric's surveillance, the vandalism, tonight's attack. She listened without interrupting. When I finished, she was quiet for a long time. You know what's weird? She finally said. What? You're telling me about your wife leaving you, about another man attacking your property, about divorce proceedings and criminal charges, and you sound like you're describing a business problem, like you're presenting a project status report. That's just how I process things. Maybe, or maybe you're so busy staying in control that you're not actually processing anything, you're just managing it. What's the difference? Processing means feeling it, and managing means containing it, and containers eventually overflow. I thought about that, about the spreadsheets and the documentation and the systematic approach to dismantling my marriage. Maybe I don't want to feel it, I said. Then you're going to explode eventually, or implode, one or the other. I'm fine. You keep saying that. But fine people don't install 6 security cameras on their house. Fine people don't document every transaction their ex-wife makes. Fine people don't... She stopped. Sorry, I'm overstepping. This is your process. You do it however works for you. No, you're right. I know you're right. I just don't know how else to handle it. She reached over and squeezed my hand. Just briefly, a gesture of support. You're going to get through this. The legal stuff will resolve. Eric will face consequences. Laura will move on with her life. And eventually, you'll move on with yours. It just takes time. How long did it take you? A year, maybe more. I'm still working on it, honestly. Some days are better than others, but it does get easier. She left around 12:30, took Pepper, took the wine bottle, left me alone with Max and the quiet house and the broken truck sitting in the driveway like a monument to Eric's instability. I went to bed, but didn't sleep, kept listening for sounds outside, kept checking the security camera feeds on my phone, kept waiting for Eric to somehow make bail and come back, but nothing happened. The night passed quietly. Morning came gray and cold. My phone rang at 8. Patricia. Eric Chambers was arraigned this morning. Judge set bail at $25,000. He couldn't make it. He's being held pending trial. When's the trial? Probably not for months. But here's the important part. The judge granted a temporary restraining order. Eric can't come within 500 feet of you, your home, your workplace, or your vehicle. If he violates it, he goes back to custody immediately. What about Laura? What about her? Does the restraining order affect her? No, she's not charged with anything. but I'll bet Margaret is having some very uncomfortable conversations with her right now. Her boyfriend just committed felony destruction of property against her ex-husband. That doesn't look good in divorce proceedings. So this helps me, significantly. Margaret was arguing that you were controlling and vindictive. Now she has to explain why her client's boyfriend attacked your property with a bat. The narrative has shifted. What happens next? We proceed as planned. Financial disclosures were submitted on time. Asset hearing is scheduled for February 3rd. Between now and then, you stay clean. No contact with Laura, no contact with Eric, no dramatic moves, just work and live your life normally. Okay. And Daniel? You did well last night. A lot of people would have confronted him, would have escalated. You stayed smart. That's going to matter. I hung up and looked out the window at my truck. The insurance company was sending an adjuster tomorrow. The damage estimate would be part of Eric's criminal case. Everything was proceeding according to system, according to logic, according to plan. But Jennifer's words echoed in my head. You're managing it, not processing it. I called in sick to work. First time in 3 years. Told Richard I had a personal emergency. He didn't ask questions. I spent the day doing nothing productive. Took Max for a long walk. Sat on the couch. Watched TV without watching it. Let my mind wander. Thought about Laura, about the 7 years, about the good parts I'd been ignoring while cataloging the bad parts. Our third date, when she'd laughed so hard at something I'd said that she'd snorted, then laughed harder at herself for snorting. The week we'd moved into this house, sleeping on a mattress on the floor because the furniture hadn't arrived yet, eating pizza straight from the box. The night I'd proposed, in the same vineyard where we'd eventually get married, and she'd cried and said yes before I'd even finished the question. Those moments had been real, hadn't they? Or had I imagined the connection, projected what I wanted to see instead of seeing what was actually there? My phone buzzed. Text from an unknown number. This is Laura, texting from a new phone. I heard what Eric did. I'm so sorry. This is all my fault. I should never have gotten involved with him. Should never have brought him into our mess. I don't expect you to forgive me. I just wanted you to know I'm sorry. I stared at the message for a long time. Then I typed back, it's not your fault. Eric made his own choices, just like we all did. 3 dots appeared. Disappeared. Appeared again. Are you okay? I'm fine. No, you're not. Nobody would be fine after all this. Then I'm managing. Same thing. Daniel, can I ask you something? Go ahead. When did you stop loving me? Was it before Tuesday night or after? I looked at that question for 5 minutes. Thought about the answer. About when exactly I'd felt the shift from love to obligation to indifference to this cold efficiency. I don't know. Somewhere in the middle of trying so hard to make you happy that I forgot to check if I was happy. I'm sorry I made you feel that way. You didn't make me feel anything. I chose to prioritize you over myself. That was my decision. My mistake. Do you hate me? No, I don't hate you. I don't really feel anything about you anymore. And that's worse than hate, isn't it? The dots appeared and disappeared 3 times. Then, yeah, it is. Goodbye, Daniel. Goodbye, Laura. I blocked the number, not out of anger, just out of practicality. We'd said what needed saying. Further conversation served no purpose. That weekend, I got the truck back from repairs. $15,347 in damage. Insurance covered it minus my deductible. The adjuster had photographed everything. The police had the bat with Eric's fingerprints. Open and closed case. Sunday morning, I went to the dog park. Jennifer was there with Pepper. You look better, she said. Do I? Less haunted, like you slept. I did. First full night in weeks. Good. That's progress. She paused. Listen, I know this is forward, but some friends and I are going out Friday night. Dinner and drinks. Nothing fancy. Would you want to come? Just as friends. No pressure. I thought about it. About whether I was ready to be social, to pretend to be normal, to sit at a table with strangers and make small talk about ordinary things. Sure, I said. That sounds good. Really? Great. I'll text you details. We sat on the bench watching the dogs. The sun was out for the first time in weeks. Everything felt slightly less gray. Can I ask you something? I said. Of course. When you went through your divorce, did you ever worry that you'd become someone you didn't recognize? Someone colder? Harder? Every day. That's the risk, right? You get hurt and you build walls. You protect yourself. And the walls work. They keep you safe, but they also keep you isolated. So what did you do? I made a choice to feel it instead of hide from it, to let myself be angry and sad and confused instead of just being efficient. It was messy. It was uncomfortable. But it was real. And eventually, I came through the other side. What if I don't know how to do that? Then you learn, one day at a time. You let yourself feel one thing, then another, until feeling becomes normal again instead of something you manage. That sounds hard. It is, but so is living behind walls forever. I thought about that all week, about walls, about management, about efficiency versus authenticity. Thursday night, I was reading when my phone rang. Detective Kovac. Mr. Porter, I wanted to update you on the Eric Chambers case. He's been formally charged with felony destruction of property and criminal trespass. The prosecutor is taking it seriously given the pattern of harassment and the clear video evidence. He's likely looking at significant fines and possible jail time. Good. There's something else. We executed a search warrant on his apartment and vehicle. Found some interesting things. Like what? Like a folder with your personal information, photos of your house, your work schedule, maps of your daily route. He'd been planning something, Mr. Porter. We don't know what, but the level of surveillance was extensive. My stomach tightened. Planning what? We don't know. But given what he did to your truck, it's reasonable to assume he was working up to something more serious. You staying inside, calling us immediately, having all that security footage, that probably prevented a worse outcome. That's not comforting. It's not meant to be. It's meant to be reality. Mr. Chambers had fixated on you, blamed you for his job loss, for his relationship problems, for everything going wrong in his life. People in that state can be dangerous. You did everything right. After she hung up, I sat there thinking about the folder. About Eric documenting my life the way I documented his relationship with Laura. About how quickly observer becomes stalker, becomes attacker. About how close I'd come to something worse. Friday night came. I met Jennifer and her friends at a restaurant downtown. 3 other people, 2 women and a man, all around my age, all divorced or separated. A support group masquerading as a social dinner. It was awkward at first. Introductions, small talk. The usual questions about what I did for work, how long I'd been married, how I was adjusting. But then someone made a joke about dating apps, and everyone laughed, and suddenly it felt normal. Like being around people who understood, who'd been through variations of the same thing, who knew what it felt like to rebuild a life after it falls apart. So Daniel, one of the women, Michelle, said, Jennifer told us about your situation. Your ex's boyfriend attacking your truck with a bat. That's intense. It was certainly unexpected. I'll bet. My ex just emptied the bank account and moved to Florida. Way less dramatic. But equally frustrating, the man Todd said. My ex tried to claim our dog in the divorce. Hired a lawyer specifically to fight for custody of a golden retriever. Cost me $5,000 in legal fees. Did you win? I asked. Yes. But only because the judge thought the whole thing was absurd, which it was. We traded stories, compared experiences, laughed at the absurdity of it all. And somewhere in the middle of dinner, I realized I was feeling something other than controlled and efficient. I was feeling human. You should join our group, Michelle said. We meet every other week. Just dinner and talking, support system for the newly single, very informal. I'll think about it. Do. It helps, trust me. Jennifer drove me home, pulled into my driveway behind the newly repaired truck. You had fun, she said, not a question, an observation. I did. Thank you for inviting me. Thank you for coming. I wasn't sure you would. Why not? Because you seem like someone who prefers to handle things alone, who doesn't ask for help, who thinks needing people is weakness. That's pretty accurate. Well, for what it's worth, needing people isn't weakness. It's human. And you're allowed to be human, Daniel, even while everything else is falling apart. She left. I went inside. Max greeted me like I'd been gone for years instead of hours. And I realized something. For the first time since Tuesday night, since Laura had told me I was replaceable, I felt like maybe I wasn't. Maybe I was just someone going through something hard. Someone who'd made some mistakes and some good decisions. Someone who was learning to balance efficiency with emotion, control with vulnerability, management with actual processing. Someone who was, slowly, finding his way back to himself. February came with unexpected warmth. False spring, the kind that makes you think winter's over until it snows again in March. The asset hearing was scheduled for February 3rd, a Wednesday. I'd taken the day off work, dressed in the same suit I'd worn to the temporary support hearing. Professional, composed, ready. Patricia met me outside the courthouse at 9:30. How are you feeling? Prepared. Good. Today's going to be longer than last time. Margaret's going to argue for a 50-50 split of all assets. We're going to argue that you brought significantly more to the marriage and deserve a greater share. The judge will likely land somewhere in the middle. What about the house? That's the big question. Joint ownership, but you paid the down payment and the mortgage. Margaret will argue Laura's entitled to half the equity. We'll argue she's entitled to less based on contribution. Could go either way. And Eric's attack? Does that factor in? Morally, yes. Legally, it's complicated. Eric isn't party to your divorce. His actions reflect poorly on Laura's judgment, but they don't directly impact asset division. However, the judge is human. It's in his mind. It matters even if it's not supposed to. We went inside. Courtroom 4B again. Same judge. Same setup. But this time, Margaret and Laura were already there when we arrived. Laura looked different, thinner, tired, hair pulled back simply, no makeup, a conservative gray dress that looked borrowed. She glanced at me once, quickly, then looked away. Margaret looked the same, sharp, professional, ready for battle. All rise. Judge Harrison entered. We stood, sat, the familiar ritual. Case number 2024 DR 7832. Porter versus Porter, final asset division hearing. Counsel, please be seated. Before we begin, I want to acknowledge that I'm aware of the criminal proceedings involving Eric Chambers. Those proceedings are separate from this matter and will not directly factor into my decision today. However, I expect both parties and their counsel to conduct themselves appropriately. Any disruptions will not be tolerated. Understood? Yes, Your Honor, Patricia said. Yes, Your Honor, Margaret said. Good. Ms. Chen, please present your position on asset division. Margaret stood, opened her folder, began her argument. She painted Laura as a devoted wife who'd contributed to the household in numerous ways beyond direct financial payment, emotional labor, household management, social coordination, support during Daniel's career advancement. She argued that these contributions were valuable and entitled Laura to 50% of all marital assets, including the house, the savings, the vehicles, and the retirement accounts. She spoke for 20 minutes, made Laura sound like a saint, made me sound like a cold accountant who'd tracked every penny while ignoring the human elements of marriage. Then Patricia stood. She didn't dispute that Laura had contributed. Instead, she presented the financial reality. I'd brought 80% of the down payment to the house purchase. I'd paid 100% of the mortgage for 4 years. I'd funded 100% of the retirement accounts. I'd maintained the vehicles, the utilities, the insurance. Laura's contributions, while real, were disproportionate to the actual financial investment. Patricia spoke for 15 minutes, presented spreadsheets, bank statements, payment histories, made the case with data, not emotion. Judge Harrison listened to both, took notes, asked clarifying questions, then addressed us directly. Mr. Porter, please stand. I stood. Mr. Porter, I've reviewed the financial documentation. Your attorney is correct that you provided the majority of direct financial contribution to this marriage. However, marriage is a partnership that involves more than monetary exchange. Mrs. Porter's contributions, while not always measurable in dollars, had value. Do you dispute that? No, Your Honor. I don't dispute that she contributed. I dispute the assertion that her contributions were equal in value to mine. Why? Because contribution requires intent and effort. I worked to build something permanent. I invested in our shared future. She spent, she consumed, she enjoyed the benefits of what I built without maintaining any of it. When things became difficult, she looked for an exit. That's not partnership. That's occupancy. That's a harsh assessment. It's an accurate one. He looked at Laura. Mrs. Porter, please stand. She stood, shaking slightly. Mrs. Porter, do you dispute Mr. Porter's characterization? Yes, Your Honor. I worked too. I contributed. Maybe not with money in the same way, but I was there. I supported him. I made our house a home. When did you stop supporting him? She hesitated. I don't understand. When did you begin your relationship with Eric Chambers? Your Honor? Margaret interrupted. That's not relevant to... I'll decide what's relevant, Ms. Chen. Mrs. Porter, please answer the question. Last September. But it wasn't... We didn't... You began a relationship with another man while still married to Mr. Porter. Is that correct? Yes, but our marriage was already... Already what? Already over? We were just going through the motions. Did you tell Mr. Porter you believed the marriage was over? Not explicitly. But he should have known, he should have seen... Should have seen what? That I was unhappy. That I needed more. Judge Harrison sat back, looked at both of us, then at his notes. Here's what I see. I see a marriage that failed for the usual reasons. lack of communication, diverging priorities, unmet expectations. I see a husband who responded by withdrawing. I see a wife who responded by seeking connection elsewhere. I don't see heroes or villains. I see two people who stopped trying to meet in the middle. He paused. As for assets, I'm going to split this down practical lines, not emotional ones. The house will be sold and proceeds divided 60-40 in Mr. Porter's favor, reflecting his greater financial investment. The savings account will be divided similarly, 60-40. Each party keeps their own vehicle, their own retirement accounts, their own personal property. Mr. Porter will continue paying $1,000 monthly spousal support for a period of 12 months to allow Mrs. Porter time to stabilize financially. After 12 months, support terminates. Both parties will be responsible for their own legal fees. He looked at Laura. Mrs. Porter, you will have 60 days to vacate the marital residence to allow for its sale. If you haven't secured alternative housing by that time, Mr. Porter may begin eviction proceedings. Then at me. Mr. Porter, you will cooperate with the sale process. No interference. No obstruction. The house goes on the market within 30 days. He banged his gavel. This concludes the dissolution of marriage between Daniel and Laura Porter. You're both free to move forward with your lives. I suggest you do so with more wisdom than you demonstrated in ending this one. Everyone stood. The judge left. Margaret and Laura gathered their things quickly, whispered to each other, left without looking at me. Patricia turned to me. That's about as good as we could have hoped for. 60-40 split is fair, given the circumstances. 12 months support is reasonable, and you get to close this chapter. When is it final? The decree will be filed within 10 days. After that, you're officially divorced. The house sale process can begin immediately. Okay. Daniel, you should feel good about this. You protected your assets. You came through this with your finances largely intact. A lot of men in your position lose much more. I know. Then why do you look like you lost? I thought about that. About sitting in courtroom 4B listening to the judge describe my failed marriage in clinical terms. About Laura leaving without a word. About 7 years reduced to asset division and payment schedules. Because I did lose, just not in the way you measure. Patricia squeezed my shoulder. Go home, take the rest of the day, process this, and then move forward. You've got your whole life ahead of you. I left the courthouse and sat in my truck, the repaired truck with its new windows and new mirrors and no trace of Eric's bat. And I felt empty, not sad, not angry, just empty, like someone had removed something essential and replaced it with air. I drove home, let Max out, sat at the kitchen table and looked around at the house I'd built and maintained and fought to keep 60% of. It was just a structure, 4 walls, a roof, rooms filled with furniture and appliances and things that didn't matter. It had never been a home. It had been a project, an investment, infrastructure. And infrastructure without purpose is just maintenance for its own sake. My phone buzzed. Text from Jennifer. Heard through the support group that your hearing was today. How did it go? Want to talk? I stared at the message. Thought about calling her. Thought about having another conversation where I explained how I was fine, how I was managing, how everything was proceeding according to plan. But I didn't want to manage anymore. I wanted to feel something. Anything other than this hollow efficiency. I texted back, Can you come over? I don't want to be alone right now. On my way. She arrived 20 minutes later with pepper and coffee and the kind of presence that doesn't require talking. We sat in the living room. Dogs on the floor, coffee on the table, silence that felt comfortable instead of empty. Do you want to talk about it? She asked. I don't know what to say. Then don't say anything. Just sit. Just be. So we did. Sat there as afternoon turned to evening, as the light changed and the shadows moved across the floor, as Max and Pepper dozed and the house settled around us. And somewhere in that silence, I started to feel something other than empty. Started to feel the weight of 7 years, the loss, the failure, the grief I'd been managing instead of experiencing. I loved her, I said finally. At the beginning, I really loved her. I know? And she loved me, I think. Or maybe we just loved the idea of each other, the potential, the promise of what we could build together. That's how most relationships start. But we never built it. We just accumulated things and called it a life. And then when the accumulation stopped being enough, when we actually had to work on the relationship itself, we didn't know how. So we blamed each other. And we gave up. That's not all on you, Daniel. It takes 2 people to make a marriage work. And 2 people to let it fail. I know. But I can only control my part. And my part was checking out. Prioritizing work over her. treating our relationship like another system to maintain instead of something that needed attention and care and actual emotional investment. So what are you going to do differently next time? I don't know if there will be a next time. There will be. Eventually. When you're ready, and when that happens, you'll know what not to do. That's worth something. She stayed until 10. We ordered takeout, talked about other things, work, dogs, the support group, normal conversations that felt grounding. When she left, she hugged me at the door. A real hug. Not perfunctory, not polite. Real. "You're going to be okay," she said. "I promise." "How do you know?" "Because you're already starting to feel things instead of just managing them. That's the hardest part. Everything else gets easier from here." After she left, I went upstairs to the bedroom, looked at the bed, the empty side where Laura used to sleep, and instead of seeing absence, I saw possibility. Space for something new, someone new. A different kind of relationship built on different principles, or maybe just space for myself, for learning how to be complete without needing someone else to validate my existence. Either way, it was progress. The house went on the market February 15th. Professional photos, staged furniture, open houses every weekend. It looked good. Better than it had when Laura and I actually lived there. Cleaner, more intentional, less like a battlefield and more like a home someone might want. The first offer came within a week. $20,000 over asking price. Cash buyer, 30-day close. Patricia called. "Accept it. This is a strong offer in a competitive market. You won't get better." "What does Laura think?" "Margaret says she'll accept whatever you accept. She just wants this over with." "Then accept it." The paperwork moved quickly. Inspections, appraisals, title work, all the administrative machinery of transferring property from one party to another. I started packing. 7 years of accumulated life condensed into boxes and labeled with permanent marker. Kitchen, living room, office, bedroom. I found things I'd forgotten. A photo from our wedding. Laura in her simple white dress, me in a gray suit, both of us laughing at something. I stared at it for a long time, trying to remember what had been funny. Couldn't. I put it in a box labeled Laura's Things, along with her other belongings she'd never retrieved. Photographs, clothing, books, small items that held memories I didn't want to carry forward. Margaret arranged for Laura to pick up the box. Said she'd come Saturday morning at 10. Saturday morning, I was in the garage sorting tools when her car pulled up. Not Eric's car. Her own car. The one I'd co-signed for. The one she'd somehow managed to refinance in her own name. She got out slowly, walked to the front door, rang the bell. I opened it. We stood there looking at each other. "Hi," she said. "Hi." "Margaret said you had some things for me." "In the living room, box labeled with your name." She came in, moved carefully like she was in a stranger's house instead of the place she'd lived for 4 years. Saw the box. Looked through it briefly. "Thank you for keeping these." "Sure." She picked up the wedding photo, stared at it the same way I had. "We were happy once," she said. "Weren't we?" "I think so. Or maybe we were just hopeful. Hard to tell the difference sometimes." "Daniel, I want to say something, and I need you to listen without interrupting." "Okay. I was wrong. About everything. About telling you that you were replaceable. About Eric. About how I handled the end of our marriage. I was selfish and cruel, and I hurt you in ways I'm only now starting to understand. And I'm sorry. I know it doesn't change anything. I know it doesn't fix what I broke. But I needed to say it. To your face. Not through lawyers or texts. I needed you to hear me say, I'm sorry." I looked at her standing in the living room of the house we'd bought together, holding a photograph of people we used to be, and I felt something shift. Not forgiveness, not reconciliation, just release. "I accept your apology," I said. "And I'm sorry, too. For checking out. For not fighting harder. For treating our relationship like something to maintain instead of something to nurture. We both made mistakes. We both could have done better." "Do you think we ever really knew each other? Or were we just playing roles we thought we were supposed to play?" "I don't know. Maybe both. Maybe we knew each other at the beginning and then slowly became strangers without noticing." She set the photo back in the box. "What happened with Eric? The arrest, the charges. That's my fault. I brought someone unstable into our situation and you paid the price. I'm sorry for that too." "Eric made his own choices, just like we all did. He's taking a plea deal. His lawyer says probably probation and restitution, no jail time. He's moving back to Ohio, to his parents' house, starting over. And you?" "I'm staying here. Got an apartment near work. Small, quiet. Probably what I should have done months ago instead of jumping from our marriage into another relationship. I'm seeing a therapist, trying to figure out why I make the choices I make, why I always need someone else to feel complete. That's good. I hope it helps. What about you? What are you going to do after the house sells? I found a condo downtown, near the river, 2 bedrooms, one for me, one for an office. Building has a dog park for Max. Fresh start. That sounds nice. It is nice, or it will be, once I move in and make it mine. She picked up the box, walked to the door, paused. Daniel, if I could go back, if I could do it all differently. Don't. There's no point in that game. We can't go back. We can only go forward. I know. I just wanted you to know that I did love you. At the beginning, and probably longer than I admitted to myself, I just didn't know how to love you the way you needed, and you didn't know how to love me the way I needed. And instead of learning together, we just gave up. Yeah, we did. Goodbye, Daniel. Goodbye, Laura. She left. For the last time. No drama, no tears. Just a quiet closing of a door that had been open too long. I watched her car back out of the driveway, turn onto the street, disappear around the corner. Then I went back to packing. 2 weeks later, the house closed. I signed papers at the title company, transferred keys to the new owners, received a check for my 60% of the proceeds after paying off the mortgage and closing costs. $147,000. More money than I'd ever had in a single account. The accumulated equity of 4 years of mortgage payments and market appreciation. I deposited the check, paid Patricia's final bill, paid the moving company, paid the first and last month on the condo. Still had over $100,000 left. Money for the future, for investments, for security, for starting over. That weekend, I moved into the condo. Jennifer and Todd from the support group helped. We loaded boxes and furniture into a truck, drove across town, unloaded everything into a space that felt nothing like the house. Better, cleaner, mine. This is great, Jennifer said, looking out the floor-to-ceiling windows at the river. You're going to be happy here. I think I might be. Not might be. Will be. You've done the hard work. Now you get to enjoy the results. After they left, I stood in the empty living room with Max at my feet, looking at boxes that needed unpacking and furniture that needed arranging and a life that needed rebuilding. And I felt something I hadn't felt in months. Hope. Not hope that Laura would come back. Not hope that the marriage could be salvaged. Not hope that any of it would turn out differently than it had. Hope that I could be different, could build something better, could learn from the past without being trapped by it. I opened a box, started unpacking, building something new, one item at a time. 3 months later, mid-May, I was at the dog park with Max when my phone rang. Unknown number. I almost didn't answer, but curiosity won. Hello? Daniel Porter? Yes? This is Officer Williams. We met back in January. The night Eric Chambers attacked your truck. I remember. What can I do for you? I wanted to let you know that Mr. Chambers' case concluded yesterday. He accepted a plea agreement, 2 years probation, $5,000 restitution to you for damages, mandatory counseling, and the restraining order remains in effect for the full probation period. He's also permanently barred from contacting you or Mrs. Porter. Mrs. Porter is my ex-wife now. The divorce finalized in February. Right. Well, the restraining order covers both of you regardless. Just wanted to give you closure on that situation. You shouldn't have any further issues from him. Thank you for letting me know. No problem. And Mr. Porter, you handled that whole situation as well as anyone could. A lot of people would have escalated. You stayed smart. That matters. After he hung up, I sat on the bench thinking about Eric, about how his attempt to intimidate me had destroyed his own life. Lost his job, lost his girlfriend, lost his freedom, all because he'd blamed someone else for his problems instead of taking responsibility for his own choices. It could have been me, could have easily been me on the other side of that equation if I'd made different choices, if I'd confronted him violently instead of documenting everything, if I'd let anger override logic. I'd been close, closer than I wanted to admit, but I'd stayed controlled, stayed smart, and that control had saved me. Max came running up, tennis ball in his mouth, tail wagging. I threw it for him, watched him chase it with pure joy. Dogs had it figured out. Live in the moment. Don't carry grudges. Find joy in simple things. Forgive quickly. Love unconditionally. Maybe that was the lesson I needed to learn. Hey, stranger. I turned. Jennifer was standing there with Pepper, smiling. Hey, yourself. Haven't seen you in a few weeks. Work's been crazy. Marketing campaign launch, 14-hour days. I barely have time to sleep, let alone socialize. She sat down next to me. How's the new place? Good. Finally unpacked everything. Starting to feel like home. That's great. You look good. Relaxed. Less haunted. Thanks, I think. I'm working on it. Working on what? On being human instead of efficient. On feeling things instead of managing them. On letting go of the past instead of documenting it. How's that going? Slowly, but progress is progress. She smiled. It is. Hey, listen. I know this might be forward, but would you want to grab dinner sometime? Not as a support group thing. Not as friends helping friends through divorce. Just as two people who enjoy each other's company. I looked at her. Really looked. At the woman who'd been there when I needed someone. Who'd helped me move. Who'd listened without judgment. Who'd shown me what actual connection looked like. Are you asking me on a date? Maybe. Depends on your answer. Then yes. I'd like that. Really. Really. But full disclosure, I'm probably going to be terrible at this. I'm out of practice. And I come with baggage. We all have baggage. The question is whether you're willing to unpack it and deal with it, or whether you're going to carry it around forever. I'm working on unpacking it. Then that's enough? How about Friday? There's a new Italian place downtown, supposed to be excellent. Friday works. Pick you up at 7? Perfect. She left with Pepper. I sat there with Max, watching the dogs play, feeling something that resembled anticipation. Not the desperate kind, not the needy kind. Just the quiet recognition that maybe, possibly, there was room in my life for something other than maintenance and documentation and controlled efficiency. Room for messiness, for risk, for connection that wasn't based on infrastructure and shared accounts, but on actual emotional investment. Room for becoming someone new instead of just managing who I'd been. That evening, I was making dinner when my phone buzzed. Text from Laura. Hi, I know we're not supposed to be in contact, but I wanted you to know something. Eric's case closed today. Probation and restitution. He's moving back to Ohio. This chapter is finally over. I'm sorry again for everything. I hope you're doing well. Take care of yourself. I looked at the message for a long time. Thought about responding. Thought about telling her about the condo and the progress and the slow rebuilding of a life. But that felt like reopening something that needed to stay closed. Instead, I just typed, "Thank you for letting me know. I hope you're doing well too. Take care." Then I deleted her number. Completely. Permanently. Not out of anger, not out of spite, just out of recognition that some doors need to stay closed for new ones to open. Friday came. I picked Jennifer up at 7. She wore a blue dress that matched her eyes. I wore jeans and a button-up shirt. Normal date clothes for normal people doing normal things. The restaurant was good. The conversation was better. We talked about work and dogs and life after divorce, about mistakes we'd made and lessons we'd learned, about who we'd been and who we were becoming. "Can I ask you something?" she said over dessert. "Sure." "That spreadsheet, the one where you documented everything about your marriage, do you still have it?" "Yes." "Why?" "I thought about that. About the infrastructure.xlsx file sitting in a password-protected folder on my laptop, about all the data and analysis and systematic documentation of a failing relationship. I don't know, maybe as a reminder of what not to do next time, or maybe because you're not quite ready to let go." She was right. I knew she was right. "I'll delete it," I said. "Don't, not yet. When you're actually ready, you'll know, and then you'll delete it without needing someone else to tell you to. That's when you'll know you've moved on." After dinner, I drove her home, walked her to her door. "I had a really good time," she said. "Me too." "Want to do it again sometime?" "Definitely." "Good. Daniel, thank you." "For what?" "For being willing to try, to risk, to open yourself up even though you've been hurt. That takes courage. Or stupidity. Hard to tell the difference sometimes." She laughed, leaned in, kissed me briefly. A simple kiss, no demands, no expectations, just possibility. "Good night, Daniel." "Good night, Jennifer." I drove home, let Max out, sat on the couch in my condo looking out at the river and the city lights and the life I was building. Then I opened my laptop, pulled up the infrastructure.xlsx file, looked at it one last time, at all the data and documentation and systematic accounting of 7 years, at proof that I'd been right, that I'd protected myself, that I'd won. Except I hadn't won. I'd just survived, and surviving wasn't the same as living. I moved the file to trash, emptied trash, watched it disappear. Then I closed the laptop and sat in the quiet, feeling lighter than I had in months. Max jumped up on the couch next to me, put his head in my lap. I scratched behind his ears. "Just you and me now, buddy. Fresh start, new life. We can do this." He looked up at me with those trusting dog eyes that saw nothing but the present moment. No past, no future, just now. Maybe that was the real lesson. Not about documentation or systems or control, but about being present, about showing up not just physically but emotionally, about building connections that mattered instead of infrastructure that didn't, about being replaceable versus being irreplaceable. Because Laura was right about one thing: I had been replaceable in her life, just like she'd been replaceable in mine. Not because we were bad people or failed partners, but because we'd never actually built something that couldn't be dismantled with a few phone calls and some paperwork. Real connection, the kind that mattered, the kind that lasted, wasn't about shared accounts or joint mortgages or systematic documentation. It was about showing up every day and choosing each other, not out of obligation, not out of infrastructure, but out of actual desire to be together. That's what I'd been missing. That's what Laura had been asking for. That's what we'd both failed to create. But now I had a chance to build something different. With Jennifer, maybe, or with someone else, or just with myself. A life built on presence instead of efficiency, on connection instead of maintenance, on being fully human instead of perfectly controlled. I picked up my phone, pulled up the photo gallery, found the wedding picture I'd taken a photo of before giving the box to Laura, looked at those two people, younger, hopeful, certain they were building something that would last. They'd been wrong, but they'd been trying, and trying mattered. I deleted the photo, not to erase the past, but to make room for the future. Then I texted Jennifer. "Thank you for tonight, and for everything else, for showing me what actual connection looks like, for being patient while I figured things out, for being you." She responded immediately. "Thank you for being willing to learn. See you soon." I set my phone down, looked around at my condo, my space, my place, my fresh start, and I realized something. I wasn't replaceable. None of us were. We were all unique combinations of experience and perspective and choice. The question wasn't whether we could be replaced. The question was whether we chose to be present enough, real enough, vulnerable enough to make replacement irrelevant. Laura had been wrong. I didn't need her more than she needed me. We'd needed each other equally. We just never figured out how to need each other in ways that actually worked. But I was learning now, slowly, imperfectly, with help from people like Jennifer who knew what it meant to rebuild after everything fell apart. I was learning how to be present instead of efficient, how to feel instead of manage, how to build connections that mattered instead of infrastructure that didn't, how to live instead of just survive. And that was enough, for now, for today, for this moment.